Well, here we are again. It is week 1. Weird. Game 2.
That's gonna get old so fast.
I know. That's why I do it.
No, not you doing it. Just the
week 0 thing.
Weirdness of the whole thing. Yeah, no,
dumb. But anyway, whatever.
Not you, Vince. You're good.
I'm very sensitive these days. Okay, Brian.
I understand.
All right. So
Notre Dame, Gatorade, you'll be fine. We're good to go.
Going to Powerade today.
Okay,
so
good.
All right. But anyway, Notre Dame is 2-0. They did what they needed to do, obviously, today. Sloppy at times, proficient at times. I mean, let's just put it this way. I am very happy that this game is over. I am glad their FCS opponent situation is over for now. There is no FCS opponent on the schedule that we are aware of moving forward, and I couldn't be happier about that. So no major injuries, no issues. We move forward, Brian. And that was the game. I mean, that's basically the game for me, is they did what they were supposed to do. Didn't look great all the time, obviously, and we'll get into that. But here they are, 2-0.
Yeah. Look, Vince, we'll have plenty to say, good, bad, and everything in between. That's how we do it. But look, they did what they needed to do, right? My prediction for the game was 62-7. They won 56-3, right? That's 3 points off. I thought they'd win by 55. They won by 53. And what we got a glimpse of today was, Vince, is this team is still a work in progress in week 2 or game 2, week 1. Hey, guess what? They're not perfect. They got stuff they got to work out. And there's some things we saw today that we didn't like and some things we saw today that we really liked. But they handled business, right? They did what they needed to do. They got the 56-3 win. From what we could tell, they came out of it clean from an injury standpoint, outside of Devin Ford, who went out. But most likely, well, I don't even want to guess. I don't like guessing on injuries. But based on the fact of how he got hit, I think we kind of know what happened to him. Outside of that, Notre Dame came out clean, right? And so 56-3, they're 2-0 on the season. You all know how we do it, right? We're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like during the show. If you just want us to say everything was awesome and sing the Lego song, go somewhere else. If you just want us to rip them for, not winning 100-3, find somewhere else, right? We're going to talk about all of it. But at the end of the day, Vince, Notre Dame in the first 2 games of the year is 2-0, and they have outscored their opponents 98-6. So if you're here to complain too much, I don't know what I can say to you, man. They're 2-0 and they've outscored their opponents 98-6. Is there work to be done? Absolutely some work to be done. But isn't it a great place to be when you have work to be done and you've outscored your opponents 98-6 and your quarterback's completing like 85% of his passes through 3 games, right? Here's a crazy stat that Vince and I calculated together. And this is going to kind of – let's just dive into the offense, Vince. I mean, let's just do it, right? I mean, I thought as a whole, as a team, I thought they came out a little sluggish early. I think that Devin Ford, what should have been targeting, woke him up a little bit, in my opinion.
It woke up the whole stadium, and that woke up the team. It feels like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like there was like the booing, the crowd wasn't great to begin with, right? And then all of a sudden,
the team was sloppy. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm not saying that to disparage the crowd because you're right. But man, that woke everybody up. That woke everybody up. So as much as I do not want to see Devin Ford get hurt out of the deal by any stretch of the imagination, Notre Dame needed a catalyst of some sort to get him kind of, and that was definitely it.
Yeah, no doubt. So when you look at it, Vince, offensively, I want to start with the quarterback. This is kind of a wild stat. And again, they've played Navy and Tennessee State. Understand that. But this is still insane. Sam Hartman has been on the field for 12 offensive possessions. 12. He has led Notre Dame to 11 touchdowns and a missed field goal in those 12 drives.
A very makeable field goal.
They went 6 out of 7 against Navy on touchdowns, missed field goal. And then he was in for 5 first-half possessions today, and they scored touchdowns on all 5. Now, today, offensively, I mean, that's a great stat. I just needed to get that out there because when you and I were talking about that on the way back to the car, I was like, because at first we thought it was like 10 out of 11, and I was like, figured it out it was 11 out of 12. I thought the offense came out real sluggish early. First 2 drives, they were just really sloppy, I thought, especially offensive line, which I didn't think played really all that well today. You had the negative. You had Audric Esime getting hit twice behind the line. You had to get yourself into a 3rd down. You had to convert 2 third downs in the first series. You had to convert a 3rd down in the second series. just came out real sloppy. Vince actually grabbed the wrong notebook. Came out real sloppy, but they did what they needed to do because they were efficient. Well, Sam Hart used his legs to move the chains on 3rd and 5. They got into a 3rd and 4, ran a counter play. I like that they ran the ball on that situation. And second drive, similar thing. Like I'm going to it. You second play of the game, Blake misses a block. Aldrick gets hit behind the line. It was a 4-yard loss, but it should have been worse. Aldrick had to kind of bulldoze some dudes to get there. Then they go down and get a field goal on their first drive. Notre Dame's offense doesn't even get a shot to get back on the field after that. And then they come back out on the next possession. They give up a pressure on the first series. So first play, Rocco gives up a pressure. Sam scrambles, gets 0 yards. They run for 7 yards. Next play, they're facing another 3rd down. They pick that up with a little quick Z option. I thought at first it was a snag to Rico. It ended up just being like a little quick option route out of bunch. And then after that, they got rolled.
Yeah.
So overall, Vince, happy with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, we can go and we can nitpick and we can go back to the film. We're going to do that. I mean, we're going to have our upon further review tomorrow night, and we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff, right? And there were some things that we didn't like, but overall, like the big picture stat that you gave about Sam Hartman and the drives that he's been in charge of, has it been like perfect every single time? No. But at the end of the day, he's leading this team down the field to touchdowns. And a good chunk of that is him buying time, him going through his reads, him scrambling, using his legs. I mean, all of those different things. And I'm not saying that, anybody else couldn't have been successful against Tennessee State. That's not the point that I'm making. It's that, look, what are you trying to do when you take your team out on offense? You're trying to score touchdowns. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what they do.
I mean, look, we don't need to do like the whole premise thing. We all understand it was Tennessee State. I don't care who your competition is. When you lead your team into scoring range on all 12 possessions in which you're in the game, your first 2 games, I don't care who you're playing. That's really impressive. And that's what kind of the first thing that stood out to me, because here's the thing, Vince, they weren't sharp today offensively. They weren't. I thought they were sluggish up front. I didn't think they moved people the way that they need to move people. I thought the offensive line wasn't sharp. They didn't play as one cohesive unit the way they needed to. I thought the receivers early were really sluggish off the line. They weren't really firing off. There just wasn't any urgency on offense early, Vince, right? Like that's what it was to me. But again, you still did what you needed to do. You still went down and handled your business, and that's what we needed to see from this line. And again, there's a lot to clean up, man. There's a lot to clean up. But this team is averaging, 49 points a game, something like, right? Am I correct on that? 49, 49?
48, I think.
They scored 98 in 2 games, right?
I think they scored 96. So if it's
98,
it's
so 49 and 56, right? Am I, or 42 and 56? That's 98, right? I'm just making sure my math is correct.
Sure
That was
is.
a history major.
So it's 49.
So 49 points a game, and there's a lot to clean up, right? I mean, the first team offense has literally gotten in the scoring zone every time they've been on the field. So when you watch Sam today, I thought coming out early, Vince, he was not quite as read and get it out, maybe as consistent. I thought he was trying to maybe look downfield a little bit. The timing of the routes just wasn't great early. He had a mistake on, I think it was the 3rd possession of the game. No, was it the 4th possession? So it was their 4th touchdown drive. Let me find it here real quick. Which drive was it? Yeah, it was their 4th touchdown drive. You came out. Here's one of the mistakes that I thought he made in the game. No, is that it? Yeah, it was the 4th touchdown drive. So he comes in, it's 2nd and 10. He pulls an RPO when he shouldn't have pulled. And the cornerback baited him. And Sam starts to throw the out, and the cornerback's about to jump it. And it just gave me flashbacks to Marshall last year, right, on that pick 6. And Sam got to right here, and he saw it, and he sailed it. Like intentionally sailed it. So you're like, mistake to start, but he didn't compound the mistake.
Right.
There were some plays like that, but man, some of the other throws he made today where the timing was just where it needed to be. They kept running the scissors concept today. They ran it 3 times, completed it twice, should have completed it a 3rd time, but Steve Angeli was late getting it out. So then he got hit and the ball kind of fluttered. Scissors is essentially, it's an outside post. And then the inside guy runs sort of a corner or he'll bend it out. So it looks like scissors, right? You know, scissors are kind of crossed like that, called scissors concept. The post took the safety away both times, and Sam's out. I mean, if he gets the ball out later, any later to Chris Tyree, Vince, then maybe the defense has time to react to it and maybe tackle him inside the 5, right? I mean, it was still a great play, but got it out to him really quick. He catches the ball, goes in and scores. Then he hit Jaden Greathouse on it again. I think, was that the 2-minute drive, Vince, that he hit Greathouse on that other scissors play? Let me see here. Yes, it was right before the touchdown. He hit it again.
The 24-yard one. Yeah.
Yep, to Greathouse later. And then they ran it, and I think Rico ran it the 3rd time, and Steve Angeli got hit on it. But you know, once they got rolling, Vince, really by the 3rd series, I thought the skill just kind of took. I mean, really, the skill took over from the beginning. That's kind of what I felt. They just out-athleted Tennessee State, and they just bullied Tennessee State a little bit. But I thought Sam was really sharp. His stat line for the game was kind of funny. He only played a half. He went 14 of 17 for 194 yards in the first half, and he had 2 touchdowns passing, and he had completed 82.4% of his throws. He also had 14 rushing yards and another touchdown. That's a pretty good day's work in a half of football, Vince.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a half of football. Like, I mean, it's not as easy as you just double it up and it would be a game. But if Sam Hartman wanted to, I mean, he could have ballooned his stats and things would have been nutty, obviously. And it's just not necessary. So he was incredibly efficient. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, you know, yes, I believe he did come out a little bit sluggish, not getting the ball out of his hands quite quick enough. But as you mentioned to me when we were in the press box, he's over 80% completion percentage in the first 2 games. Like, he's kind of the epitome of you know, consistency, and they're scoring touchdowns big picture wise. You couldn't have really written up a better script for the first 2 games overall, right? There's plenty of things that you can nitpick, and that's why the coaches get paid what they do. I mean, they're going to go back, they're going to look at the film, they're going to try to clean those things up, because next week is obviously the skill level of the opponent is going to advance greatly, and it's on the road. All of those things, right? It's the first time we're going to see Sam Hartman in a white jersey, and so, you know, they're going to have to fix some stuff. There's no doubt about it, and they're not going to be able to come out the way they did tonight and be as comfortable as they were throughout the game. I'm not saying that they won't. Like, if they blow the first series,
you might be punting on series 1 if you're as sharp. If you're not as sharp, if you're as sharp as you were against,
it's not going to lose them the game, but you still want to come out stronger than that. Yeah. Right. So got to clean some stuff up.
I want to talk about some good stuff. I want to continue talking about the stuff we liked first. And for the second straight game, Vince, the Notre Dame running backs just showed that this is an absolutely loaded group. I mean, Dylan McCullough's ability to get multiple guys in the field is really impressive. I mean, it's kind of hilarious, to be completely honest with you, how effective they've been at that. I mean, you're talking about Audric Estime gets into the series. You see Jeremiah Love getting in the game, Jerome Payne, Jadarian Price, Devin Ford obviously got knocked out early, but just looking at the production from the running backs today was really impressive. I mean, it is an incredibly gifted group. So here's the numbers. Audric Estime had a 50-yard run. He had 13 carries for 116 yards. He also caught a pass for 7 yards. So he had 14 touches for 123 yards. Jeremiah Love had 46 rushing yards on 5 carries. He had a 36-yard touchdown run, which he would have scored from 90 if he ran it from his own 10. I mean, it was you know what we didn't talk about, Vince, and it'll kind of fit into the backs. We saw a lot of new run game stuff today. We talked about it during the week. I talked about this on our shows this week, Vince. I said, we're going to see some stuff. We've seen stuff in practice we didn't see against Navy because they didn't need it. We saw that today. We saw buck sweep. That was the touchdown run by Jeremiah Love. He made a great read, really good perimeter blocking, and he just read it perfectly and then just used his athleticism to make a play. We saw him run later on a G scheme. It's another pin and pull. The buck sweep is more perimeter oriented, but you're doing it out of a sweep action. The G scheme is similar blocking, but it's more of a pistol downhill type of run, which Notre Dame had on the play. But Jeremiah Love had 5 carries for 46 yards, and then he had a reception for 4. So he had 6 touches for 50 yards. Jabron Payne had 27 rushing yards on 6 carries. I thought he wasn't sharp running the ball. I thought his didn't make maybe the best decisions running the ball. I thought he rushed some things and the blocking. They were run stunting. Tennessee State was run stunting up the middle a lot in this game, and Jabron didn't make plays. But what did Jabron do? 2 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. So Jabron Payne has 8 carries for, let me see, where did I say 45? So that's 62 yards. No, I'm sorry, 72 yards. 45 plus 27 is 72, right? So he has 8 touches for 72 yards and a touchdown. And then Jadarian Price only has 5 rushing yards on 2 carries, but he has 2 catches for 51 yards and another touchdown. So they had runs of 50. So his total production was 56 yards on 4 touches. That's what you did from the running back position today. That's way over 200 yards. I know my math is a little off, but that's way over 200. That's probably close to 250 yards of offense from the running backs, right? You had gain of 50 by estimate. You had a gain of 40. What was Payne's touchdown? 42. You had a 42-yard touchdown from Payne. You had a 40-yard touchdown from Jadarian Price, and you had a 36-yard touchdown run from Jeremiah Love. And they all looked good doing it. Like, this running back room is absurdly good. And Tennessee State, no, I get all that, but you can see talent. Talent is talent. And this running back room, I actually thought a lot of the run game production, Vince, Notre Dame ran for 220 yards on 33 carries. I thought a lot of that had as much to do, if not more, to do with just the running backs making plays. Like Audrick's 50-yard run, that wasn't an incredibly well-blocked run. He was getting hit like 3 yards down. If he just kept running over dudes and eventually breaks it free, it's like, I thought he made a lot. I mean, the -4 he had, he's getting hit in the backfield and keeps like stiff arming dudes. And I thought the running backs played really well in the run game and pass game. I don't know about pass pro. I got to go back and watch the film. But in those 2 phases of the game, Vince, the best position group on the field today, from just a God-given ability standpoint, and then production and maximizing production, was the Notre Dame running backs. That is a really athletic, special group. And Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price just play at a speed that really nobody else in the field plays at. I mean, they are explosive.
Yeah, with running backs, specifically, and it's to dovetail off what you're talking about, the yak for the running backs. And I'm talking about not yards after catch, yards after contact, because there were numerous times where Love, Estime, I mean, they were hit for a very short gain. They would run a guy over, spin around a guy, do the 3-legged drill, whatever the case may be, just to keep, who was it? It was Pine, or excuse me,
Payne.
Number 3, Payne. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So Payne had a nice move down by the goal line where he would have been down about the 10-yard line and kind of 3-legged it all the way down to the 5, right? And so all of these running backs are doing really, really good things. And then on top of that, they all have good hands. And we saw that in the fall during camp. And they were very deliberate about throwing the ball to the running backs and getting them touches, and not just on swing passes and the L route, that puts them right behind the linebackers and things like that, or the angle routes. It was down the field stuff. It was wheels. It was, all kinds of different stuff. We're starting to see some of that now that Notre Dame is playing some traditional teams, right? And so the sky is so high. The ceiling is so high for this running back room. Normally when, a different running back comes in or a different guy comes, you're like, okay, whatever, that's fine. There's no drop off. There's no drop off when a guy comes in for Estime, who is a really good back all in his own right. There's no drop off, man. And I'm telling you, this running back room is special. Running back room is special. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys, because they could be an X factor, because there's a lot of times also when Sam Hartman is scanning the field and he's going through his progressions, his running backs aren't covered, man. And while he's making good reads and he's getting the ball where it needs to go, those guys are going to be making plays in the pass game, man.
I thought when I watched Steve Angeli today, I saw he's got the weirdest stat liner. He went 8 of 11 for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. I didn't think he played great reading the defense. He looked like a kid who'd never thrown a pass in a college game before. Yep. Just unwilling to let it go down the field. And he did have that one really nice in cut to Mitchell Evans But so there's just other times, Vince, like he just needs like the scissors route. He makes the right read on the scissors throw. He just was late getting the ball out. That's not surprising for a kid making his first like real action where he's dropping back, throwing the ball. I'm not no issues with what Steve did today. It's a learning process, right? But his escapability today was really good. I mean, the touchdown run to Jabron Payne or the touchdown pass to Jadarian Price, like I thought he was going to get sacked. He did a really good job
Yeah,
spinning
he
out of it
did.
and staying up and getting the ball and keeping his eyes downfield. I thought he missed a read to Cooper Flanagan on the touchdown to Jabron Payne. That'll be like as a coach, I'm gonna say, hey, look, it worked out well with the touchdown, but that's because the team we played is not very good. Make this read. But again, he kept the play alive and he got the ball to the backs. And the point I was going to make was, as a quarterback, that's incredibly comforting when like, hey, stuff's not there, or I'm getting pressured. If you can just kind of just let me get the ball to my running back and he can go do something with it. I mean, it's now 2 games in a row we've seen that. And we talked about in fall camp how much they involve the running backs in the pass game. You mentioned that earlier, Vince. We've seen that a ton in the first 2 games, man.
Oh, yeah.
Audric had the 22-yard gain last week, and we saw some check down throws. And then, of course, today they got rolling. I'm actually trying to add it up in my head. They had 96 from those 2, 103 from him, and then they had 107 receiving yards today, the backs did. So tons of production from the running backs. Actually, I'm going to add up the total production. Vince, what did I say? It was 106. So you had 96 there. Audric had 1 for 7. Jabron had 1 for 4. Audric had 116 rushing yards. Jeremiah had 46 rushing yards. Jabron had 27, and Jadarian had 5. So I think I did the math wrong on that one because there's no way they accounted for 301 yards. Actually, they may have. Let me just do this again.
Oh, they may have.
Yes, they did. The running backs today, Vince, accounted for that's just the starters, the first 4. It is actually more than that. The main rotation running backs account. Actually, if you want to add 304, because Devin Ford had the 3-yard gain, that 304 yards today rushing. Then you add 9 yards for Skip Vallata and a yard for Sam Assif. Notre Dame's running backs accounted for 314. I'm sorry.
Don't forget about Chase Ketterer.
318.
Yeah.
318. 318 yards of offense from the Notre Dame running backs today.
Out of 557.
That's a pretty good day.
Yeah, that's special.
Pretty good day.
That's a special day.
Yeah.
And yes, 100%. And the other thing that I really liked about, I guess I'm going to kind of move off of the running backs. I want to go back to, you were talking about Angeli and talk about Sam Hartman a little bit more. Last game, 9 different receivers of the football. This game for Sam Hartman, I believe it was 10 in the first half, and then it ended up being 13 overall because Angeli threw to a couple of new guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to talk about spreading the wealth and spreading the ball around, man. Like, I know it sounds so simple, and I get that. So, well, you just throw the guy that's open. Well, it's not that simple, okay? Because if it was, all quarterbacks would do it, okay? 10 different receivers in one half of football, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
It is as simple as he's throwing it to the open guy, but my goodness, he's got a lot of options on offense. And I can guarantee you when he puts his head on the pillow at night, he's like, man, this is fantastic. Like, I have never had this before. You know what I mean? He's got so many options, whether it's the running back room and, oh, yeah, don't forget the tight ends can catch. They did very well today when the ball was thrown their direction. And then you've got all these receivers that are just doing their job.
Yeah.
And
they haven't broken out yet. Like they haven't looked phenomenal yet. The receivers haven't. Jaden Thomas had almost an identical stat line to what he had in week 1. He had 4 catches for 62 yards, right? I think, wasn't he like 4 for 63 in the opener?
Something like that, yeah.
Actually, yeah, he was.
He would have had so much more if he didn't slip on that one play.
He was 4 for 63 today, or last week, and he went 4 for 62 today. Rico had 2 for 31. One of those came from Steve Angeli. Jaden Greathouse had 2 for 30. Chris Tyree caught 1 for 24. Went for a touchdown. Really nice route. Tobias had 2 for 5. Just the only complaint I have in the pass game is we haven't seen them try to push the ball down the field. That's my only complaint. And there were chances today to really push the ball down the field on just outside opportunities. And so that'll be part of people. Hey, what's one of the questions I had, what we know and don't know about this team. One of the questions I had in the game was like, okay, what's the role for the tight ends? What's funny is we actually didn't see the tight ends get used a whole lot outside of the 2-minute drill.
The 58-second drill or whatever it was.
Yeah. And that was one of the that was a thing of beauty. I mean, you throw the little slide route. They ran a swing route. Like I think it was a swing route to Jabron Payne on the first play. And then on the very next play, let me just make sure I sequence this correctly. On the very next play, Vince, they were in a trips to the right with the tight end to the left and the running back to the left, or like in a shotgun to the left. And they ran a corner concept so the back ran a slide. And since they had just run that play, the flat defender comes down, the corner comes down, and Sam reads it perfectly and bangs that corner route to Mitchell Evans. Actually, that was the third play. The second play was the seam route to Mitchell Evans, which was a great ball because the safety's coming over and he throws it to the backside of Mitchell, turns Mitchell around, which he had to do. And then Mitchell, great awareness of the situation as well. You could see him kind of throttle a little bit and then be ready for that back shoulder. So great job by him. Then the next play, they went back to that running back slide with the corner concept. He hits that corner route. Next play, they run an in cut. Mitchell gets 13. Great ball on that. And Mitchell made a really tough catch. And then they ran the scissors concept to Jaden Greathouse, got him free, and then he hit Colton Stace on a crossing route for the touchdown.
Then put it right over a defender, right where it needed to be.
Mitchell made a great play on it.
I mean, yeah.
And I think we only saw one throw to the tight ends after that. So that to me still remains a little bit of a question after 2 games, Vince. But when it was money time, they went there.
When the lights were the brightest, to speak, right? When they had to make plays. I mean, you talk about the tight ends getting involved, obviously, and then you talk about Sam Hartman's stat line for that one drive, that less than a minute touchdown drive, 6 for 6, 80 yards and a touchdown. And it just, the way he did it, he's just like Joe Cool, man. Like he was never stressed. He didn't look like he was rushing. Like it was just
less than a minute. It went 80 yards in less than a minute. Again, I know the competition, but dude,
doesn't matter, man.
Because the one thing we said coming to the game is this is actually a decent secondary. They have a couple guys that could very well transfer to Power 5 schools next year in the secondary. And we said that coming into the game, but dude, they made it look easy on that 2-minute drive, Vince. And you know what? I didn't think the offensive line played great in this game, but they gave him all the time in the world on that drive.
Absolutely.
Like stepped up and gave him the time he needed on that drive. So that was a thing of beauty, man. That drive was just a really, really impressive drive.
And that ended up being his last drive of the day. Like what a great drive to end on. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like you just go in the locker room like, okay, where's the signal caller jersey? Like I'm good.
Right.
Like, I mean,
right.
So it's a good way to go out and a good way to springboard yourself into the week of preparation for NC State if you're Sam Hartman.
Yeah. And by the way, we are going to do a mailbag after this because we're going to keep the post-game breakdown a little bit tighter and then respond to questions that you guys have. So if you have, obviously super chats always get preference, but if you have some other questions, go ahead and throw those in there. Vince, offensive line wise, that's going to be something we're going to discuss deeper upon further review tomorrow. So tomorrow night, and then also with the receiver stuff, because there were times I thought guys were getting open. But the one thing I noticed watching the game, and I'm going to go back and watch it, guys were kind of getting open, but I just didn't see the urgency I need to see from the receivers as a whole. Just coming off the line, just not really showing me the urgency that I need to see. And I'm going to break the film down a little bit and see if that kind of gets backed up a little bit from the all 22. But that's something I want to see a little bit more of from that group. Is just a little bit more, hey guys, come off that line with a little bit of urgency. Okay, that's kind of what I want to see from the receivers. But we'll dive into the offensive line just on the breakdown, just from watching it live. Too many missed assignments. Not the cohesive unit we saw a week ago. You had a false start in the short, your 4th and 1. They're going to go for it.
Yeah,
and then
that was
false start by Pat Coogan.
That's disappointing.
I thought Zeke Correll just really didn't move his feet very well today. I didn't think Rocco moved his feet well today. I thought Blake was a little undisciplined today on the right side. I didn't think Pat Coogan played great. Actually, the best push they got all game was when they brought in the second team offensive line on that one scoring drive that they had with Angeli. I thought they came out and moved Tennessee State pretty well. with that second group, but not a great day for the offensive line. But again, you went out there and did what you needed to do, and ran for 221 yards and passed for 336. And it wasn't like, oh my God, this offense is just going to be unreal all season. Like it wasn't that kind of day, but it did show like, hey, we have better players than you. We saw Kenny Minchie get in there late. He went 2 for 2 for 12 yards, and man, I love watching that kid throw the ball during pregame. Like he is so pinpoint when he throws the football. It really is fun to watch. But you got a lot of guys in the field.
The ball. I'm glad he got to throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah, you got a ton of dudes on the field, because there was guys that got on the field late that didn't get a chance to play. So
a lot of walk-ons, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. Overall, Vince, solid day from the Notre Dame offense. Right? Not a great day. You showed off your talent. You were a little sloppy. Not great urgency early, but you did what you needed to do. You avoided the big mistakes. There wasn't like that play like against Navy last week where you're like, boy, if that safety makes a better play on that ball, that's a pick six for Hartman. They made one great play on the ball, but Hartman saw it, threw it out of bounds. It wasn't a threat to turn it over. I thought that was a really underappreciated, savvy play for me, because that was on the drive to make it 28-3. If he throws a pick six there, all of a sudden it's 21-10. And I mean, not that Tennessee had any chance to win, but it would have been like, okay, you just would have had more of a taste in your mouth. But it just showed his savviness, Vince. Like, he made a mistake because, hey, guys, Sam Hartman's going to make bad reads. You know who else made? Tom Brady at 45 last year made bad reads. You know what I mean? Like, Peyton Manning made bad reads. Joe Montana made bad reads. It's going to happen. But he didn't compound the bad read with a secondary mistake. He saw it, shoot, and he threw the ball away. Lived to fight another day. And then what I also loved, Vince, is on that very next play, 3rd and 10, very next play, he hits that deep end to Jaden Thomas. And I don't know if you all could see it on the TV, but it was actually kind of funny. It was actually great concentration by Jaden, because he actually jumped too soon, and he caught the ball on his way down.
Yes.
So it was actually kind of funny to see, but that was great concentration, because when you mistime your jump as a receiver, it can throw off your catching process. But Jaden did a great job. He just went up and snatched it out of the air, made a great play, and moved the chains. But it's just one of those things where Sam doesn't, again, you're going to make mistakes in a game. You're going to make bad reads. You're going to make bad throws. You're going to miss a block. You're going to drop a pass. You're going to miss a read as a running back. The key is, don't make mistakes worse. How do you make mistakes worse? Well, as a quarterback, you make the bad read and then force a ball that gets picked off. Or you make a bad read and then you're mad at yourself, you're in your feelings, and then that energy leads to the next play, and then you make another mistake, or shoot, I got to go make a play now, and then you force a ball where you shouldn't force it. Showed good poise on the next play, and that's what we saw today. Is even when guys made mistakes, they didn't double it up on the next play. They'd come back on that next play and do what they needed to do, and that was another good thing that I saw from today's game, Vince, was you just didn't continue building up those mistakes.
There's no sense of panic. Like there was no sense of panic when a mistake is made. There's no sense, well, man, now I gotta make a play. You know what I mean? It's okay. We're good here. Just get back into the offense, do my thing. And that's what they did, and it paid off, right? And absolutely. And I just feel like, Brian, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I just feel like the calm demeanor of Sam Hartman, the hey man, we got this. Like this is not my first rodeo. We got this, everybody. It's just kind of bled off onto the rest of the offense. Like that's what it feels like to me. And there's a reason that they voted him captain, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think his energy in a very positive way has rubbed off on the entire offense. I just don't see that sense of panic, because there's a lot of guys that are playing. They didn't get a ton of playing time last year, right? From the wide receiver room, or however you want to, the running backs. Most of those guys were not, guys that they were counting on or played a whole lot last year. Like, there's just no sense of panic with anybody on the offensive side of the ball, and I think a lot of that has to do with Sam Hartman. I really do. And I don't want to give him too much credit, but I do think that's a big part of it. I really do.
Yeah. Overall, Vince, good day from the offense. Let's talk a little defense. I will say this: I had three big takeaways from today, and we'll dive into each one, but I'm going to just give them out all. Number one, for all my frustration with the defense today, because people are going to say this, they're going to say, "Look, man, you know, you can complain about the defense all you want, but they held Tennessee State to 156 yards of offense. And I'm like, good. We said
They
all week, this
should.
is a terrible offense. They ranked in the 100s last year in total offense. This is the team that scored 18 points a game last year at the FCS level, right? You should have held them to 156 yards. There's a lot to clean up. Number two, I thought that Al Golden today, and we'll dive more into this. Again, I'm just giving my three events, and then we'll dive into specifically to them. I thought the defense was too cute today. They didn't turn the defensive line loose early. They were trying to use them to just kind of eat up blocks and trigger the blitzes. Like, let's show everyone how smart I am. But here's the counter to all that, right? For those frustrations, one thing I liked about the defense today, missed tackles were an issue and all that. But here's what I liked. At no point in time did I think the defense wasn't bringing it physically, right? I didn't think they played well, but they played hard. And because they played hard, they actually dominated Tennessee State. Because like the first drive of the game, they should have forced a 3-and-out. Thomas Harper had a bad pass interference. That was a good call. I mean, he got there early.
Oh, yeah.
And then you let him go down the field and get into field goal range, but you buckled down and, you know, you forced a field goal. Then your second drive on defense is right after the fumble. Tennessee State takes over with less than like 2 minutes left and a half or in the first quarter. And I'm thinking they're about to punch this thing in the end zone and take a 10-7 lead into the second quarter, and Notre Dame Nation is going to lose its mind.
Yeah.
It just
and rightfully so at that point.
And understandably so. Understandably so. But the defense buckles down. Javonte Jean-Baptiste has a big first down pressure, forces a throwaway. Jordan Patelho, but then the next play, Baptiste sets the edge really well, forces a quick cutback. Patelho comes screaming off the backside, blows it up for a 0-yard loss. And then Tennessee State made the really dumb decision to try to throw at Benjamin Morrison on third down.
Yeah.
So they get the ball at the 12-yard line. You force a field goal. Jason Onye blocks it. Like, that's when the game completely turned around for me. And although I did not love what I saw from the defense rest of the way, there's missed tackles. But the very next series, they have so again, bad first series. Force a 3-and-out, block a field goal in a sudden change situation, right? They're over there on the bench talking to their coaches. You know what I mean? Because they're getting ready for the offense to be on the field, and all of a sudden, hey, D, get up. You got to go. Now, fortunately, Devin Ford was down. Oh, goodness gracious, it's going to sound bad. Fortunately for the defense, it took a minute for Devin Ford to get off the field. That sounded so bad.
You got to be careful, man, because people cut like parts of the video and make it look like things happen that don't.
They were able to kind of get the instructions going.
Right.
But the defense faced a sudden change. They buckled down. They forced a field goal. They blocked the field goal. The very next possession, first play, Thomas Harper, who had a big mistake early, comes in, blows up the slot receiver, tackles this bubble screen 3 yards for a loss. Next play, Howard Cross destroys the guard, gets in the quarterback's face. He throws the ball away. You and I are like, throw away. And then Ramon Henderson comes from like 25, 30 yards away, screaming over, leaps and makes an interception to turn the ball over. And then the offense goes down and scores. Very next series, the defense goes 3-and-out. Jalen Sneed starts the pressure. Riley Mills has the second pressure. They force a 3-and-out. They punt the ball. Next thing you know, it's 28-3. So we can say whatever we want. And then the next drive, they get into field goal range. Why? Because the special teams gives up a long return. So for all the issues and the complaining I'm seeing about the defense, and some of it's valid, I did not like the defensive game plan by Al Golden. There was way too many missed tackles in this game, which is something that's really got to get mixed up. They lost contain way too much early in the game. They kept letting the quarterback get out of the pocket. They gave the too much room in the quarterback runs. And you and I said this during the game, Vince, like, yeah, you stopped it this week, but if that's Brennan Armstrong next week, those are 15, 20-yard gains. So there's stuff to clean up. But the thing I like is they responded well. They got Tennessee State off the field after that first drive. They never really threatened them. They never threatened the defense again. The special teams allowed them to threaten again, but the defense never allowed them to threaten again. And they were disruptive, forced fumbles, the interception, blocked punt, all those type of things. So I thought what I liked, Vince, is we saw great effort from the defense. The execution wasn't good. I didn't hate the game plan, but I didn't love the game plan. I just thought Al Golden tried to get too cute. But they played hard. They were hitting. They were, you know what I mean? They were getting after it. And to me, I can live with that because, guys, you're not going to play perfect football at all 12 games. But if you can give me great effort all 12 games, then eventually the talent rises to the top. And that's what we saw today to me from the defense.
Well, and I will say this is going to sound like a public service and a PSA for Notre Dame, right? But when did the defense just really play, with great emotion and great energy? It was after the no call of the targeting, right? And they're in a short field, they're butt up against the student section. The crowd is going bananas, right? And they fed off that energy, man. Like the defense fed off the energy in that stadium. And that's what I love about crowds. And that's what I love about football is, especially defensively, is you can just feed off that energy, and the stadium gave it to them. And they were able to shut them down that with their backs up against the goal line because of the energy that they were playing with. You know what I mean? And then they kind of used that energy and built on it and all of that. It was awesome. It was awesome. Now, it took a really crappy play to one of your guys to do that, which I don't want that to happen. But, man, did they feed off that energy.
I got to jump in here, Vince. I am so freaking sick of the targeting penalty in college football. Finally. I am so sick of the targeting penalty. How can you not even review the hit on Devin Ford? Not even review it. But you're going to kick Thomas Harper out for that play. I am so sick of that. I'm so sick of that rule. And this is exactly why I'm going to get on my soapbox again. This is why targeting should never be an ejection.
Correct.
Because they do not know how to apply the rule. It should be pretty simple. Like it should be, if there was a maliciousness, if you lower your helmet, like Thomas Harper's trying to keep his face up, but the guy goes low. Once the guy goes low, there shouldn't be targeting. Like targeting should be reserved for guys who are straight up or catching a pass or a quarterback or, a running back to the side where the guy's still running and you come and you lead with the crown. But when a guy's going down, there are so many targeting penalties in college football where a guy is going down, like you launch, and when I launch or when I'm coming at you and I'm starting my tackling process, my face is on your numbers, but you keep going down and dip, then my face is going to go right into your helmet. That should be freaking targeting. If you're going to kick Thomas Carter out or Antonio Carter out for that, then you flat out should have kicked the Tennessee State kid out for that. That was a completely bogus call. But I'm going to say this. I'm kind of glad they didn't do it because, to your point, Vince, I thought that got the crowd and that got the team really fired up. That's what I thought.
It did.
But
it totally
the fact
did.
that wasn't called for whatever reason, Notre Dame just consistently gets completely crapped on with targeting penalties. I mean, going back all the way to 2013 when Stephon Tuitt got kicked out of the Pitt game for that stupid, shouldn't have been targeting. But I am so sick of that freaking rule. And then what was the other penalty? The pass interference on Clarence Lewis was a complete crap call. Like this was, I don't know who officiated this game, but they sucked. And the fact that they didn't even review that hit on Devin Ford, like anytime a guy gets that's what happened on the hit with Antonio Carter. Like when they saw the guy down, then they kind of looked at it like, oh, guy's down. What happened? Why didn't they do that on the Devin Ford one? So I'm getting so sick of the targeting penalty. It's like, I understand why they're trying to do it, but they need to, and I don't even, keep targeting as a penalty, right? Just keep it as a penalty. But stop ejecting people for the penalty, because unless it's a malicious, dirty hit, and when it's malicious.
Exactly.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that it's malicious. Unless it's malicious, but that's already there, Vince. That's a personal foul. You can eject a guy for a dirty play. Just right now, eject it, you're out. You don't have to have you know what I mean? And so that really pissed me off. And a guy gets hurt on that play. Devin Ford doesn't come back in the game after that. That really bothered me, man. It really pissed me off that didn't even review it.
Right. But then they review the other one and then they decide that that's targeting.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. Okay. The other one was clearly targeting. They didn't review it. I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous. It's BS. It's all of that. Okay. Notre Dame rises above it. They have a great defensive stand, gets the crowd going. Okay, let's move on. But then a so much less malicious situation takes place, and they decide that's going to be reviewed,
right?
And they uphold it as targeting.
Right.
It blows my mind. I to this day, ever since they put that rule in the way it is in college, I don't know what targeting is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. And
I can
that's
repeat the
sad.
rule, but I still don't know what it is.
Correct.
And what you're referring to, Vince, if I'm correct, is I know what the rule says, but I don't know what targeting is when I watch the games and
That's
how
what I'm
it's
saying.
how it's ruled. I have no idea what the rule is. None.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times we've seen it. And my dad, who, like I said, my dad's an umpire. Like my dad complains about officials more than anyone on the planet because that's part of what he watches. Because that's what he did. I mean, he had a passion for it. But we have this back and forth text conversation almost every time there's a targeting call. Like, dude, how is that not called targeting? Or how is that called targeting? Like, it just happens all the time. You're just like, come on, dude.
Right.
Like, how do you keep getting this so wrong? And when you do get it wrong so much, that's exactly why it doesn't need to be an ejection. Like, look, you want to keep targeting, and like just like a personal foul, you get 2 personal fouls in the game, you're ejected. That's just the rule. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It just, look, 2 times you do this, you're out. Okay, cool. But I'm just getting so sick of that rule, man. I really am. And it now, fortunately, that happened to Antonio Carter in the first half.
Right, exactly.
So he just missed the second half. He'll be back next week. He's not out next week. So that's the
which he
that's the
may
only
not
good
even
part.
played a whole lot in the second half anyway. Which
exactly
is
know
what. So
it's
at the
the
end
principle.
of the day, it's the principle, 100%. Because it was about a minute and a half left in the first half when it happened. I leaned over. I was like, well. Right. At least it's still the first half. Like
exactly.
if there's a silver line, if that exists, at least it's the first half. So, but yeah, that was embarrassing is what that was. It was embarrassing.
Exactly. So Vince, what else did we see from the defense? Defensive line was not turned loose a ton. When they were very disruptive.
And they got after the quarterback. Yeah.
I mean, we saw Jordan Mattel dropping into coverage a lot. When he was allowed to attack, he was good. When Riley Mills was allowed to attack, he was good. Howard Cross had a very disruptive game, not just on the interception, but just a couple other plays. Now, Nana had a little bit of a bounce back game, I thought, on the edge. We'll have to break down the film and really dive into it. I just kind of felt early on they just weren't getting off blocks on some of those stretch calls. Like they were just getting like 2 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. Like there wasn't any like gash runs.
It was too much stalemating, which in a game like this, that's not what you want. You don't want stalemating. Like offensively, we always talk about resetting the line of scrimmage, 2-3 yards down. That's what the defense should be doing to this offensive line to Tennessee State, man. Like Tennessee State's offensive line was not good, and they were gassed pretty early. There was a lot of hands on hips. There's a lot of that going on. You can't stalemate those guys.
Yeah.
You have to push them back and disrupt what's happening in the backfield, and that wasn't happening enough for my liking, I guess is the best way to put it.
Agree. Yep, that's fair. I think that's fair. That was kind of my takeaway from it as well. Linebacker wise, I'm going to have to break down the film again. I didn't get a chance to really key in on the linebackers. I thought that Marist was out of position a couple times to contain. I thought the defensive ends a little bit, but it looked to me like the linebackers were the bigger problem to contain. But I don't want to dive too hard into hammering them for it because I just need to go back and watch the film a little bit more. The blitz wise, I mean, they were. I thought JD was very active in some of those pressures. He had a really nice tackle for loss during the game. Secondary wise, the big issue I had with the secondary was the tackling. That was really my big issue. Cam Hart had some missed tackles. There just was too much of that. Jalen Sneed had a big missed tackle as a rover. There just was way too much missed tackling in this game. That's my biggest thing. But coverage wise, there just wasn't a lot there for Tennessee State. There was a couple blown coverages early that should have allowed Tennessee State to score a touchdown. But the throw was off. But those were the contain on the quarterback and just the overall playing the quarterback was not great today. Again, they were able to out-talent Tennessee State, but I thought from a structural standpoint and a call standpoint, I think they did a great job of handling the quarterback runs. And of course, like as I mentioned before, the contain on the quarterback, especially early, was on that first drive was not good. But I mean, overall, they cleaned it up for the most part. As we kind of got through it and handled their business and did what they needed to do in the game.
It was just like you said, it was some setting the edge issues, early, and it was like, come on, like you got to be able to set the edge. And some of it was because they were being blocked, and some of it was because it came downhill a little bit too much, like it squeezed a little bit too shallow and got outside.
They were playing. They just look like they're a team playing a team that they know sucks. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They played like a team that, hey, we know these guys aren't good. And you don't want to see that, but we talked about during the week. There's a chance we could see that because the film doesn't lie. It doesn't.
For sure.
But like you said, I thought they kind of buckled down a little bit after the the first drive really they settled down. I mean, Tennessee State had 3 scoring opportunities. They missed 2 field goals, but 2 of those scoring opportunities, the only reason they happened is because of the special teams.
Right.
You had the fumbled kick return and then the long kick return that you allowed. What was it? Near the end of the second quarter, right? It was right before the 2-minute drill, correct?
I believe so.
Guy missed it. And then, of course, Notre Dame went right down the field that next drive and scored. But that was a little bit of that was frustrating, to be honest with you. That was a little bit frustrating. But a positive is Tennessee State, outside of a couple plays, Tennessee State had nowhere to go with the football day in coverage.
No.
And they have decent receivers, I mean, for that level. But, man, Notre Dame's corners were all over. I mean, even why would you keep throwing to Benjamin Morrison, number one? Like, that's just silly.
That third down when they, after the fumble, and they went to Benjamin Morrison. Did you not? I had a flashback to the Clemson game. Like, when he put that in the air, I was like, oh, he's going to come down with that. And he's going to take it the other way. Like, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
The receiver actually did a pretty decent job battling with him to keep him from doing that.
Exactly.
I thought that was a really nice play by the receiver because that ball had no business being thrown. That receiver competed pretty hard on that play.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, because Benjamin wanted to jump in front of the guy, and the guy battled him pretty good and kept him from taking off with that thing. And really handle their business today. We saw Ryan Barnes get in there and he did a nice job of kind of keeping them from getting going. They tried to throw at him deep. They tried to throw at Jaden Mickey once, I believe. He shut it down. Christian Gray came in there. He was good in coverage. I thought the safety play was okay. Nothing great, nothing. It's just, just okay.
There was one great safety play.
Well, we talked about that one already. Yeah, we talked about that one. That was a phenomenal play. But just overall, it's kind of like they were using the safeties as sort of a last line of defense. DJ Brown was okay. Xavier Watts was solid. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunities there. We saw Don Schuler get in the game. But, man, the corners were just locking Tennessee State guys down, which you'd expect. I mean, they threw 22 passes, but they went 8 of 22 for 67 yards. In the game. That's it. 67 yards passing. And they actually had one, if I remember correctly, Vince, let me pull this up. Then they have they had a 22-yard reception was it on a screen? Which play was that? They had that 22-yard gain. It was in the second half. I'm trying to remember when it was. Do you remember when that was, Vince? They had that 22-yard gain. I'm pretty sure it was the second half. When they had a 22-yard gain.
I was muted. It was it was 3rd and 6 at the
It was over the middle of the field. That's right.
Yeah. It was the very beginning of the third quarter.
They were going right to left from where we were looking.
Yeah.
And it was a 3rd down. Yeah, you're right. Because I thought the safety should have got more depth. They ran a nice little high-low. They had a back kind of come under the safety, and then the guy ran behind it. Just somebody that turned it loose. Yep. That was the 22-yard gain. So a third of their passing yards came on one play.
Yes.
So that was pretty good.
Yeah,
I was happy with that. Yeah,
not too shabby. And some of that had to do with the pressure that was putting on the quarterback. I mean, he was. They didn't connect on enough sacks for my liking. I'll be the first
if the contain was better, Vince, I think they would have. That's the thing. Right. Is like there was a lot of good when they turned the inside loose. Thought the inside was really good pressuring the quarterback, like really good.
Yes, agreed.
When they turned it loose, but then he would scramble outside, and there would be nobody out there.
Right, and they were chasing.
Right.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so that forced a few throwaways, it forced a few bad throws. I mean, there was one where, and I think it's the one that you're talking about, the 22-yard gain. I believe that was a scramble, Brian, and the guy just kind of sat down in the hole of the zone,
and nobody saw him.
He was turned loose by Ramon, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He kind of ran right behind Ramon Henderson, kind of sat in the zone, and it was a scramble situation. Found him, boom, first down, that kind of a thing. But yeah, overall, it was a team effort on the in the passing attack, which is good. But they got to contain better.
We talked about Clarence Lewis and. Like I'm not talking about the pick six. That was a stupid throw. That was a terrible throw. And he did a nice job of picking it off and making the guy miss. But I'm outside of that. I thought Clarence played really well. I know he got called for pass interference. That was bullcrap. That guy had his hands on Clarence as much as Clarence had his hands on him. And the ball, he didn't have his hands on him, I felt, when the ball was being thrown. That was all as they were jockeying for position up the seam. I thought that was a bad call. I thought Clarence in the slot did a pretty good job today. I thought he played well. I did. Thomas Harper had that one mistake, but outside of that, I thought he was really good on the perimeter. He blew up that one screen.
As his first really extended playing time for Notre Dame because it just didn't call for it last, you know. But they were in nickel and dime a decent chunk today. So
they had Howard Cross down for a breakup. That one pass that Jordan Patejo batted and almost picked off, they gave that to Howard Cross. That was actually Jordan Patejo that made that play.
It was more like a pressure, but not because he was there, but he didn't knock it down.
Yeah, that was clearly Jordan Patejo.
Yes.
I thought Jordan had a really good game. And can we just say this? Josh Burnham's really freaking athletic. I mean, that guy is just that dude plays at a different speed than kind of everybody else. That guy is really good at football. He's going to be special at Notre Dame, man. He really is. And I thought Junior was better today than he was last week as well. He was a little bit better last week, but right now it's just Bortelho and Burnham just played a different speed than everybody else on the front. And I'll tell you something else, Vince. This is a second game in a row that I really liked what I saw from Javonte Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah.
He's been rough. I mean, his numbers don't look great. He had 2-3 tackles and one quarterback hurry, but he just is around the ball a lot, and just whenever it's just kind of has some clutch pressures. I've liked what I've seen from him the first 2 games. I really have. I thought
he's been
Riley
steady,
active today as well. I thought he was good. Aiden Canaana looked good late in the game. So Jason Onye played pretty well in this game, including the block kick. But we saw a lot of dudes play today. We saw Don Schuler playing, saw Micah Bell playing. We saw Marty Auer playing. Tyson Ford got in the game. Preston Zinner got in the game. Brennan Vernon got in the game. I'm going to have to go watch the film later and kind of break those guys down. But overall, it was good to get a lot of guys on the field. In first 2 games, your starters haven't played a ton of snaps.
And that's huge, considering you don't have a bye your first 8 games. I mean, that's
huge.
You have to manage it. You have to manage the snap count and all of those things. I mean, it's just smart, right? And when you have games like this is exactly what you should do. It's exactly what you should do. And I love the fact that Steve Angeli got to be out there with the ones. I think that was awesome. I mean, how many times were we begging for that the last few years, Brian? It never happened. And they were put in a position today where they were able to make that happen. So I thought that was good. Getting Sam Hartman out of the game, I think, was fantastic. Some people were surprised it was at halftime, and maybe to a degree I was too. But man, you got to be careful. They will go as far as Sam Hartman will take them. Yeah. And so he can't get hurt. And can you imagine the outcry if he comes out and gets hurt in the Tennessee State game?
I was fine with him. I mean, the only reason I wanted him to play him in the second half was for Pat statting. That's the only justification for playing him in the second half. Because what we have said is we wanted to see a couple series of Steve Angeli getting work with the first team offense, and that's exactly what happened in the second half. Is Steve got to run with the first team offense, and I'm good with that. I mean, I wish I would have ran through for a little bit more than 197 yards, but it was in a half of football.
It was in a half,
like you said, Vince. And then the pass pro wasn't exactly tremendous in this game either, and Steve was running around a little bit, trying to buy time. Could you imagine if he's has to spin out of a pressure and plants his knee on the turf and,
exactly,
so, but, no, it was good. I was happy with what I saw from from that standpoint, getting so many guys in the game. But the thing with the thing with Sam Hartman, the leap, that was the other one. I was like, oh God, please.
As he's in the air, it's like,
don't get hurt.
I mean, he did a great job of tucking his helmet. Yeah. Like he did everything right, but he goes in the air, and I can guarantee you, Marcus Freeman was thinking the exact same thing. Like, okay, all right, good job, guys. All right, here we go.
Yep. Did you see the picture Angela got on that Sam Hartman touchdown?
Awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, she had it. She was there perfectly, man. She was like right on the end zone, and she had like right behind the end zone, like she was like on the sideline, but like right behind it. So the gamer, the post game story that Sean Stiers did is Sam Hartman leaping. So she got a really good shot of that. So yeah, it was a really good photo. And then she had a good one of Jeremiah Love, the touchdown. He was coming right at her. So she had a good shot of that one too. But the leap, I was like, oh, dude, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you waiting? But I actually like that it's an RPO call or as a read zone with an RPO kind of thing, where if you read the handoff and then you had a pull and then you had a tight end. So it was actually kind of a good play call, Vince. We've seen it before from Notre Dame, but they ran inside zone, they crashed it, and they brought the tight end back. But instead of running the split instead of running the split zone like we saw last week, they had the tight end Mitchell Evans come backside, but then leak out. Well, Tennessee State actually read that well, and the linebacker backside ran with him. But that opened up Sam being run in the end zone. So it was a good call. Tennessee State actually played it relatively well. Like they read the backside pass and handled that well, and then Sam read it well. So he had 3 more touchdowns. But let's talk about this real quick, Vince. Special teams has got to get on track. They have not looked great the first 2 games. They were okay the first game, but you have the miss, you have you get tackled at the 12-yard line and then fumble. Right. So even without the fumble, it's still you're inside the 15 on a return.
Yeah, I mean, you're 13 yards in the minus because if you just fair catch it, you're at the 25, right?
Exactly.
So, not good.
You're trying to get cute in the second half and just kick it out of bounds, and then it's like 3 guys come running downfield and they're untouched and they just all run right by the returner. And then he runs and you're just like, guys, the blocked field goal was good, but that to me, I've always viewed block kicks as like blocked field goals as more of a defensive thing because you just got your defense on the field. You know what I mean? But I guess kudos for that. But the special teams was not sharp today. Bryce McPherson showed his leg strength by kicking that ball in the end zone, but
that's not what
you're not supposed to kick the ball in the end zone. You know what I mean? Like, so I just thought the special teams was just not sharp today. Good. They made all their extra points. That was fine, but.
That's not that.
Yeah. I just that's going to have to get cleaned up. Again, first 2 games, and I'm not going to overreact to it. Look, first 2 games, there's a lot to clean up. It's just the problem with special teams is when you make a mistake like that on special teams, it's more glaring
for sure
because it ends up resulting in like a 50-yard return. You know what I mean? Just the nature of the deal. But they're going to have to really get that cleaned up.
But what was good today, Brian?
What's that?
Matt Salerno's punt returns.
Yeah. Yeah. What was his punt return? He had a nice return. He got at least 15 on that one.
Oh, he had 2
on it.
He had 2 decent ones. To be honest with you,
he had one went for 6.
Okay,
but he made some people miss on it.
Yes, he did.
But and then they had an 8-yard kick return. 1 8-yard kick return.
Yeah.
So I just
not bad.
Kicked off 9 times. 7 of them were touchbacks, and on the 2 that weren't touchback, they gained 76 yards. So it's like, you got some stuff to work out. You got some stuff to clean up. But again, week 2, right? Or game 2, you're going to still have some of that stuff.
No doubt.
This is why you schedule teams like Tennessee State in week 2. Coming up back from Ireland, got the long trip back. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, like, this is why it's smart to schedule an inferior opponent. Look, my stance on playing an FCS team. It's nothing against Tennessee State. No disrespect. I don't care who it was. I didn't want Notre Dame playing an FCS team. It is what it is. I've made it known. But this is why you play an inferior opponent in week 2, whether it's this team or Bowling Green or somebody like that. This is why you play an inferior opponent in week 2, because you can you can work out those kinks, and then because you play a team like Marshall in week 2 and you make those mistakes and you get beat, and this way the team can build some momentum, and now you've got some film. Hey guys, we got 2 games worth of film now to work on. Hey, this is what we need to do better, and so overall. Man, 56-3, Vince. They're 2-0, and they've outscored their opponents 98-6.
Yeah.
There's, what I love, and the best part about it is there's a lot of film. The coaches are going to be in the film room tomorrow with the players saying, hey, we got to get better here. We got to get better here. Got better here. There's a lot of teams in college football, that would love to be in Notre Dame shoes. Maybe not Oregon, maybe not Oklahoma. Those teams that won like 70 something to 7 today. But there's a lot of teams that would love to be in Notre Dame situation where you're 2-0, 98-6. And there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. And now next week is when you better make them, because your opponent's going to be a lot better. So anything else you'd like to talk about, Vince, before we go to the mailbag as far as just wrapping up today's performance?
I think we hit everything like live that we saw, you know what I mean? And a lot of the things that you and I talked about during the game.
And there's going to be some stuff that we're purposely not talking a lot. We're not talking a lot about the offensive line because we gave our initial impression, but we're going to really have to dive into the film and study that. We'll talk about that tomorrow night upon further review when we have a better chance to dive into a little bit. So anything else? Feel
I think that's
this,
it. That's
this
it.
team, you know what I love too, Vince, when they brought in the young players, we just got reminded again of just how talented Notre Dame's freshman and sophomore classes are. Like they're putting Christian Grant in the field. I'm like, why is I literally said this to myself in the fourth quarter. Why is Benjamin Morrison still on the field? That's stupid. Why? This is dumb. Like, why is your All-American cornerstone on the field?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, that's Christian Gray.
29, 20.
Whoops.
We're 9 floors up.
Their body types are
Yeah.
so similar, and Christian is
Right.
just smooth, just like Benjamin is, and he was just locking dudes down like Benjamin does. And I'm like, why is he on the field? Why is Benjamin Morrison still on the field in the fourth quarter? And I was like, whoops, my bad. That was Christian Gray. He looks pretty good. We saw Don Schuler. I thought the Don looked pretty good. But did you see that little juke that Clarence Lewis went back to his receiver days on that pick six, man? Did you see that?
It was a nice play because he had to beat a guy.
He was a pretty good receiver in high school.
Oh, yeah.
In New Jersey. Yeah, he was.
He did a good job, and he kind of turned on the afterburners there a little bit too. I dug it, man.
This game just, you know what it does, Vince? This game and just what I see from Clarence Lewis today is just further example of why that kid needs to be playing safety. Like, honestly, I'd feel so good about this defense if it was like him and Xavier and Ramon and then Clarence with DJ kind of working in some limited roles, and I'd feel so much better about the safety rotation if that were the case. I really would.
Yeah, agreed. It's still a question mark, and I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yep.
Maybe tomorrow night. Just
there you go.
Maybe.
So that's going to do it for this part of the show. We're going to go to the mailbag next. So if you guys have some questions you want to get in, go ahead and throw those in for us, and Vince and I will answer those. But look, end of the day, folks, 56-3 victory for Notre Dame. They're 2-0, and now they got to get on the road next week again, leaving the comforts of their home stadium again next week to head down to Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm actually going to be flying out Wednesday night, Vince, after my Wednesday show. I'll be flying out to Virginia Beach to go stay with my family for a couple days before I head down to Raleigh for the game. But it's going to be a fun week, man. So, hey, do us a favor before we go to the mailbag, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this podcast. It's mailbag time, Mr. D'Addario. We had a super chat from Tyler. Misguided Passion said, free Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. Charlie can post in this chat if he wants to. He was not banned from this chat. He was put on a little bit of a timeout during the game because while Notre Dame was up 28-3, he just kept complaining about stuff. And it's just like, take a deep breath, enjoy the game. You're going to be fine. Everything is good.
It's great. I was getting messages from some people that were, a little on edge, I guess, when the game started. I didn't even respond. And then afterwards I was like, they did what they needed to do. And they're like, yeah, we know.
I got a buddy who texts me all game, and he's like, dude, I know you're not reading it. I just need to vent. Because if I were to respond to him, I'm like, dude, like you're losing it. But did what they needed to do.
Joseph Conati with the super chat. Thank you very much, Joseph. Really appreciate it. Hartman kept Notre Dame calm and steady in the first half. Agreed. Once the team came around, I felt much better about the game. Angeli left me uncomfortable, but not worried. Notre Dame did what they had to do in the end.
I mean, look, if Steve Angeli had to play right now, I'd be nervous. But that's because this was the first time Steve's ever played and it wasn't even a meaningful snap, but like a non-fourth quarter handed off on the final series and get out of the game set. I mean, first time he's ever played in this type of environment. He's going to have to get better. But, he'll be, left me uncomfortable to the point, Vince, where like if he had to play right now, I'd feel nervous. But I'd feel nervous if it was Kenny Minchie playing or if CJ Carr was on campus or look, that's just the reality of it.
Either way, you're going from a guy who's 24, a sixth year in college, to a guy who's either 19 or 18 with ridiculously limited experience as a college quarterback. I mean, you'd be nervous about anybody at that point. I'd be nervous if CJ Carr was a true freshman. I mean, there's just a very big drop off from an experience level at this point. I mean, and we're all excited that Sam Hartman is the quarterback for this team. And any backup is gonna be like, well, that's not Sam Hartman. No kidding. No kidding.
I didn't think Steve played well. He went 8 of 11 for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right. Exactly.
But you know what I do like though is like there's a lot he's got to improve upon. But now he has some film in a game situation that they can look at and say, hey, look, see this throw? It's there.
Yeah,
as long as you get rid of it
exactly.
sooner, right? Like
He's
hit your
got
drop, it's
actual
there.
tape.
Yes,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? He's got
Exactly.
actual tape that
That's
he
why
can go
this was
back. Yeah.
that's why they needed to get him in the game with the first team offense. Like get the well,
Yes.
I want to, and I don't know if it was taught. I'm actually going to go read while you're talking next time. I'm actually going to go see if they talked about why they weren't like signaling in a lot of the second half. The
It was
quarterbacks kept
all,
running to the
yeah.
sideline and they were giving them the play. I didn't know if like the headsets were down or something, or I didn't know what
Well,
was going on.
aren't those guys the ones that are usually signaling in? Isn't it
Yeah,
usually
but
in Jelly?
that's been in the
They,
past as well. I
they
mean,
got to have a backup that can do that,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Well, but even when Minchie went in the game, that he was doing the same thing. He was running over, and
Yeah.
Angeli was back on the sideline. I thought that was a little strange.
Yeah. Maybe they're trying
So,
to, maybe that's just their way of wasting time, or I
yeah,
don't know.
don't know.
You're right. That's
Don't
a good
know.
question to ask.
Yeah, but look, he needed this opportunity. Like that's the thing is he needed these
Yep.
snaps. He needed these live reps. He needed to run with the first team offense. He needed to communicate with the offensive line. He needed to get a feel for, what a game looks like outside of a scripted practice setting, right? Because everything in practice is scripted once you get into the season. Like fall camp, it's not scripted because you got your scrimmages and you're going good on good and all that kind of stuff. But all your stuff against scout team is you're telling them what defense to run. You're getting them in the looks you want them to be in, right? There's not a D coordinator for the scout team that's like making these calls, trying to outsmart Jared Parker. You're getting them set up in what you want to see. And so to a degree, there's even when you're showing your offense pressure or uncomfortable situations, you're still scripting that uncomfortable situation. This is a different animal, man. And what I like about Steve is he showed some, he can extend plays a little bit,
Yeah.
and that's good. Now he's just got to clean up the other stuff, as does Kenny, and just keep getting better and better and better. But you need games like this to be able to get him on the field, and hopefully in 2 weeks they get another one when they play Central Michigan. That's my hope. Who got destroyed last night by Michigan State? It was kind of scrappy early, but
It was well, I would say it was ugly early, personally.
Yeah.
Like it was not. It just wasn't great football, from what I
They're
understand.
not good. Yeah, they're not good. Neither team is very good.
I was going to say, I think it goes both ways in that game last night.
Michigan State just had way better players than Central Michigan.
Right.
They're not good. So hopefully you can get another one before the schedule gets a little nuts. Here in about 3 weeks.
From Alex Udell, thank you very much for the super chat. Got to tackle better. Too many misses in the backfield.
Big time.
Too many misses all over the field.
Here's the crazy thing is, Vince, is like Tennessee State finished with 156 yards of offense, and they should have had about 40 less yards than that. I mean, right, there's a lot of missed opportunities. And the frustrating thing is it's that lack of focus thing when you're playing an inferior opponent. You're trying to go make the big play and you overrun a play, but then there's other times they're just in midfield and they just got juked. You're like, dude, like what's going on here? Yeah. Way too. And it was also as we said, the contain issues were a little bit of a problem as well. This isn't something we talked about, Vince, but I want to read this super chat from Tyler Evans and talk about it now. So I saw this one earlier and I kind of left it for it because we didn't really talk about this when you and I were talking, but this is something that needs to be discussed.
I thought you were going to read. I'm sorry. I thought
you
said,
sorry,
I'm
buddy.
going to read.
I was just setting you up with why we're talking about. My bad, man.
Gotcha.
My bad.
Oh, it's all good,
bad, homie.
I'm like, okay, you're going to read it? No. Tyler Evans, thank you so much for the super chat. I love Red Zone D, and I'm loving the 2-minute offense, even though I knew they had 53 seconds on the clock and went down and scored.
Yeah, it was really wild watching them, just how easily they went down the field in that situation. I mean, that was really impressive. But look,
calm, cool, collected.
What was one of the worst things we saw from the Notre Dame? Literally, the worst part about the Notre Dame football team in 2022 was its red zone defense.
100%.
I mean, it was, and it's not even really debatable what the worst thing was. Like that was easily, clearly, without question, the worst part of their football team. Last season, Notre Dame allowed opponents to get into the red zone 34 times. And in those 34 times, they allowed opponents to score 32 times. Notre Dame has already had 3 red zone drives that came away with no points in the first 2 games. They had one against Navy, and then they had 2. Now, they were missed field goals. One of them was blocked, but that's the whole point. When you don't let them score, because last year, Notre Dame in those 34 red zone attempts allowed touchdowns on 27 of those drives. They've been in 5 red zone trips so far, and have allowed they're 2 red zone stops away from not allowing a touchdown to tie the number of stops they had all of last year. Say, well, they played bad teams. They played plenty of bad teams they could have padded those stats against last year, right? So that's got to be discussed because now it's got to continue as the schedule ramps up, Vince. But that's important because that was a really bad part of what they did, and I thought the sudden change was a great learning a learning moment for us about this defense because it was you're on the bench, you're finally relaxed, you're frustrated by what happened on the first series, shoot, we gave up points and you're about to get into the adjustments you need to make and boom, get on the field, get out there.
It's massive.
Sudden change and then just stuff, you had what was it again? It was a pressure. And then it was
a pressure stuff, and then the third down throw.
Yep.
Morrison's
1st and 10. Javonte Jean-Baptiste had the pressure. They tried to run outside zone. Baptiste blows it up, and then he cuts up, and then Botelho comes crashing backside, and then the Benjamin. And he was scrambling on that play. He was forced out of the pocket. I can't remember who had the pressure on that play, but that was it wasn't even like, hey, you let him get inside the 10 and you buckle down in 4th and goal. No, they had no chance of scoring a touchdown on that drive. That was big for me. We saw this defense respond to adversity the last 2 weeks better. Some created by themselves. Last week, it was created by themselves. This week, it was created by things outside of their control, and they did what they needed to do. So, Tyler, that's a great observation. The red zone D through 2 games has been excellent. It's just now it's got to continue, right? And so, look, the stuff that we didn't like today, Vince, it's all correctable. Tackling,
my gosh, yes.
That kind of stuff, it's all correctable. It really is. Same with the offense. It's all correctable. It's all stuff you get in the film room, you go over it, you clean it up, you go out there and you're sharper next week. It is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it is a situation where, and I've said this a million times and I'll say it again, when you come out on the positive end of a game, it makes it so much easier to go into the film room and break some things down. It's like, hey, guys, great. We went down, we scored here. Because, again, everybody knows that they were going to beat Tennessee State. That's not a thing. But, okay, we went down on this drive and scored. But should it really have taken us 10 plays? You know what I mean? Let's look at that.
Why does that matter? Why does it matter, Vince? Because you're not going to get away with just out-talenting NC State, Ohio State, Duke, Louisville, USC, Pitt, Clemson, the way you did Tennessee State and Navy. But, again, that's why you play those teams in your first 2 games. To get that stuff out of your system, and then you get better and better, and you prove on it. You got film to deal with it now, and you get better at it. That's
could not agree more.
That's the key.
Bishop Fife with the super chat. Thank you very, very much. How would you compare the level of competition between Navy and Tennessee State?
Tennessee State's better in some areas. Secondary's better. Receivers are better. The rest of it, they're not close to Navy.
Yeah.
Navy would beat Tennessee State convincingly.
Navy would run all over Tennessee State.
Yeah.
They just would. Look, if Notre Dame wanted to, they could have just lined up and ran the ball, all night long. Yes, there were some times where the offensive line didn't do great and they had some negatives and things like that. But at the end of the day, if they just wanted to line up in 12 or 13 personnel and just run it at Tennessee State, it's game over.
And I said during the week, I don't want to see that, Vince. That's what Kelly would do. Because it doesn't make you better. Yeah, you didn't necessarily weren't sharp on some stuff you did, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you just come bully a team because that doesn't project. That doesn't get you ready to go beat NC State.
Absolutely correct.
Hey, we ran a couple things. We didn't execute it effectively. Let's clean it up. But now we have it on film. We've shown NC State we're going to run this stuff. The first week of the game, Notre Dame just ran duo and inside zone up Navy's what. Well, what was the first touchdown run against Tennessee State on? It was a buck sweep that was getting outside. So now you're okay, they can hit us inside, they can hit us outside. We got to be ready for all of it. Now, Notre Dame's got to clean up the blocking on some of that stuff, but I was glad they showed that stuff. They showed some different pass game looks. They got to get better at stuff, but they were able to get a lot more of their offense in today, and I thought that was good. I thought that was a good thing. I like this comment, right, Vince? This is
Coast Malone. Thanks for the super chat. We're so back. That's funny. Yeah, yes, they are. They're so back.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so.
Joseph Conady with, I believe, a second super chat. Thank you very much. Did the defense blitz a lot? If so, why?
Because that's who Al Golden is.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, look, go ahead, Vince, because you and I talked about this on the drive home. We're on
Yeah,
the same page. Go ahead.
yeah, and it's part of what they want to do. I mean, they want to trigger their linebackers. They want to do some different things, and what they wanted to do early was kind of stalemate the defensive line to allow those linebackers to be triggered and things of that nature. And it's like, okay, you know, I don't know that that's what I would have done, but okay, that's what they were doing. And then later on, he kind of changed it up and allowed those defensive linemen to get after it. And so like that a little bit better, right? But that's just the game plan that they had coming in. I mean, and you know, you're not just going to sit in your base and let Tennessee State do what they want. You know, you've got to mix it up and do some different things. I just don't know that I would have done it that way. D-Troll Hunter with the super chat. Thank you very much. Guys, looks like Vince and get that clean pull.
He's saying look like Vince.
There we go. Okay, makes sense now. Guys, look like Vince. Get that clean pullover. Go Irish. Go IB Nation. I just got
you don't have your
today.
pullover today. Yeah,
I just got the polo on today because it was a little hot in the stadium. I didn't need the long
my
sleeves.
pullover just in case because I sometimes get a little bit cold in the press box, but I didn't today.
Fair. But yeah, it's a non-pullover day, but it's coming, guys. I still went with the game day whites.
What's funny is you have the game day whites and the white pullover. I have the blue and the blue pullover.
That's right. You're home. I'm on away. That's how we're gonna roll here.
Well, you know, the boss always, the head coach is always supposed to look a little different than the assistants. So
you're not wrong. They got to see. They got to see me on the sideline for the signals.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
All right. Andre Tonsil. Let's see here. Dominant defense and an efficient offense lead good teams to greatness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Look. I wouldn't call the defense dominant today from it was a great game plan and they executed it flawlessly. They were dominant today because they are way better than Tennessee State. But I will say this, even with some of the things I need to see better from the defense, Vince, through 2 games, they play hard.
Yes.
And they play fast. They got mistakes they got to clean up, just like a lot of teams do in week 1. Right. But they played. That's the thing is that's why I'm not overreacting too much to the mistakes on defense today. Yeah, they got to get better. They got to clean some stuff up. But man, they played hard. They played hard. And that's what I like to see.
And that's the stuff that you can't just flip that switch. You know what I mean? It's like either you have a defense that plays with passion and hard and aggressive, or you don't. Like that's at least been my experience. And when I have a defense that just flies around, they play hard, they play fast, they play aggressive. Like you can tweak some things and fix some things and be okay.
Yes.
You can't flip the switch on the other stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You either have it or you don't. And I think this team has that. Now I want to see more of it, but I think this team has it.
Eventually that stuff's got to get cleaned up, Vince. The missed tackles, the losing contain, the not being in a position on this play or that play, not blocking this play well, effective. Like even the offensive line. Like I didn't think the offensive line played that well, but I never was like, dude, they're not even trying today. They're not even playing hard today. Like I thought Blake Fisher was really sloppy today, but it wasn't like Blake's being lazy today. It wasn't that. It was just his footwork was getting him in trouble. He missed a read on a guy. He overset on a backside run, let a guy get in front of him. It was never these two, like they were sloppy because they weren't focused because they knew they were playing a team that was bad. But it was never, dude, they're not even giving effort today. They're just going through the motions today. It wasn't that. That would concern me, Vince. If it was like, because that switch you can't turn on, right? Like that switch you don't just say, hey, okay, now we're ticked off, we're going to go. They were always playing hard. They just had to kind of zero in a little bit. And that's an important thing. And no, I'm not happy that they came out sloppy and didn't have a lot of urgency on either side of the ball. I'm not happy about that. And I'm sure Marcus Freeman's not happy about that either. But any coach will tell you, I can live with that. I can live with mistakes. I can live with missed tackles. I can live with a guy being out of position. I can live with a missed assignment. I can live with a bad footwork from a running back. I can live with bad footwork from an offensive lineman. I can live with a receiver not running the route the proper distance. I can live with that after 1 or 2 games because that's all correctable. I can live with it as long as I'm seeing the effort and I'm seeing the toughness and the fight. And that's what we've seen from this team. There's stuff that's got to get cleaned up like now because you've got a really good football team you're going to face next week at their place. That's got to get cleaned up. but the foundation is strong, and that's what we're talking about, Vince, right? Like the foundation is there. All the other stuff is get in the film room, get on the practice field, correct that. But Marcus Freeman's not sitting in his office tonight like, guys, I got to figure out what buttons to push to get this team to play hard.
All right, exactly.
I got to figure out what buttons to push to get this team to play together, to get them to care about each other, to get them to play as one, to have each other's back. I got to figure out ways to push those buttons, man, because this team just doesn't have that. That's not what Marcus Freeman's worried about tonight.
Right.
He's in the film room probably right now because he likes to watch it film afterwards. And he's like, man, we got to clean that up. He's making notes. We got to be in better position here on kickoff coverage. We got to be in better position here on when the quarterback gets outside against Brennan Armstrong. We make those mistakes against Brennan Armstrong next week, or against Riley Leonard, or against Caleb Williams, or just Cade Klubnik. You go down the line, you make those mistakes against those guys, they're going to hurt you a lot more than the kids from Tennessee State did. We got to clean that up. But what he's going to like about this team is like, look, guys, pads were popping. We were playing hard. We didn't have the focus we needed to. But the reason they scored on their first drive, Vince, is because they were still going hard. And because if you don't go hard, the talent doesn't rise to the top. Not the way that they did today. Not the way that it did today. And that's the foundation that you start saying, hey, look, we're going to be all right. If you're a coach, we're going to be all right. Now we've got to clean this crap up, right? You're not happy about that. But the foundation is there to build upon. And that's where you want to be after 2 games. Again, 98-6, guys. 98-6. That's the score for Notre Dame the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Here's a great stat. So for those of you that want to watch more about football tonight, Bill Trocchi and Bill Bender are going to go live around 11:30 tonight on CFB Nation. They're going to do a live post Saturday week 1 show tonight. So Bill Trocchi actually just sent me, he's one of the hosts of the CFB Nation. He just sent me a stat. This is crazy. He said the last time that Notre Dame did not give up a touchdown in its first 2 games, 1975.
Wow.
Yeah, 1975. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty good. 1975. That's the last time Notre Dame that was year 1 of Dan Devine. And they beat Boston College 17-3, and they beat Purdue 17-0. Notre Dame has outscored more than that today in the first half.
Yeah.
In those 2 games. So yeah. So it's a good foundation. Now clean some stuff up and get rolling.
And here, typical Notre Dame fan, should have been 101-6. No. I love it. Just set the bar up here, baby.
No, but hey, he's right though, dude. Make the field goal.
Right.
Make the field goal against Navy.
100%.
Right.
100%. I just thought that was funny.
Don't get a freaking false start on first. And this is what a good coach should do. Hey guys, I know we won 56-1, but we can't be missing field goals like that. We can't be going false start on a 4th and 1 when we're trying to go. Right. You hammer that stuff because that's the stuff that you got to correct. You don't just accept it because, it's 42-0 or 42-3. We're fine. No big deal. No, it is a big deal because it's showing me a lack of discipline and a lack of focus. And those things got to get corrected. But it was never like boys, team just isn't playing hard. And that, again, that's where you want to be, man. That's where you want to be.
Right. Irish in Ohio, fellas, how concerned are you with tackling? Seems like first guy misses in space every time. Other than that, great game. Go Irish.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, sure. It's a concern. Yeah, because they should be tackling better in space, and that's what teams like this are going to do. They want to get you in space, and they want to have, they want to be kind of a one-on-one situation because maybe they got a shot, right? They don't have a shot just banging their head against the wall and going right up against the Notre Dame's midsection. They want to get Notre Dame in space, and Notre Dame didn't do great in space today. They didn't.
Right.
It is concerning. Is it? Am I like, oh, the sky is falling? No.
They're going to get killed by so-and-so. No.
But it is something they need to clean up. There's no doubt about that. No doubt.
Yep. Good stuff here so far, everybody. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
Michael S. Defense seemed to have trouble with a running quarterback. Not a good sign with Armstrong ahead. Your thoughts?
Again, we need to make sure that we don't overreact to certain things. Again, right? You're making a transition from preparing for the triple option to what you saw today. They made mistakes, right? Now you got to clean it up, but you got to clean it up for the reason you said, Michael, because it didn't hurt you today because the quarterback you played today wasn't dynamic enough or good enough, and the line wasn't good enough to make you pay for not having contain, a little soft up the middle on some of the quarterback runs. Yeah, you got to clean that stuff up. You got to clean that stuff up because the next guy is going to be able to hurt you. Absolutely. Um, it am I worried about it? No, no. It's from a coaching standpoint, it's not a worry. It's we got to clean this up. We got to get better here, right? Got to get better
Yep.
here. But that's where you can get exposed sometimes as a blitzing team, because if you blitz and it doesn't hit home, there's gonna be a crease for a good quarterback to hit. And that's why, to me, I've always felt I like being strategic with my pressures. I don't just like being a guy that blitzes all the time, right? Because I think you especially against a mobile quarterback, you can make those mistakes. Like for me, I want to leave Brennan. I want to keep Brennan Armstrong in the pocket, make him read defense, go through reads the whole game. Let your D lineman eat a little bit. Yeah, you can bring some pressures in certain situations, but you got to be more strategic with it. And I like a good blitz package. I just like a little less volume of a blitz package. And that's kind of something that I would like to see change a little bit. That's just my 2 cents, Vince.
Enigma with the super chat. Thank you very much, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Under the one who remains nameless, when was the last time we saw the 2-minute drill score in consecutive games?
I'd have to think about that. I have to go through and think about that. Obviously, yeah, it's a good question. I'm not quite sure the answer on that one.
Yeah,
didn't they? No, because Michael Mayer dropped a pass. They would have done that at the beginning of the 2021 season, because they had that late 2-minute drive against Florida State, and then Mayer dropped that pass, and that forced them to go to overtime. And then they had the game winner against Toledo that next week. So I'd have to think about that one. To be honest with you. So I don't have an answer for you.
To your point, Enigma, the 2-minute drill looks very smooth and very efficient on this team with this group. It does, and it's fun to watch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was.
Yeah. Trash. I love it. I love that name. Trash.
Pretty fitting for his comment too, when you think about, because it's fitting that the referees were that.
Yes, he says
they definitely were that today.
Thanks for the super chat. Trash. Refs were horrible. I get giving the underdog a chance, but that was just horrible. Good win. Let's get ready for NC State. And look, I know it sounds cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's about player safety, right? That's what the whole targeting rule is about. It's about player safety.
Right.
The refs did not keep players safe today.
No.
That's the bottom line here. It's one thing you miss a holding call or you do something like that. Okay, I get it. You're human. But you missed a terrible targeting call, which put a kid on the sideline for the rest of the game. It was a safety issue, and you blew it. You blew it. That's a problem that I have. You're always preaching safety. We're changing the clock rules for safety or to safety. Get your crap together when it comes to targeting and keep these kids safe, because that's not happening.
Because my thing is, if they would have been consistent with it, I'd have less of a beef.
Absolutely.
If they wouldn't have called the one on Devin Ford and then also didn't call the one on Tony Carr, say, look, okay, I get it. They were incidental, because that's how it should be. To me, to me, I didn't think the hit on Devin Ford was a dirty one, but it was, to me, textbook targeting. It was helmet to helmet. I don't think hitting a guy in the head when it's incidental should be a penalty that way. Because again, the guy was going down. But if you're going to call it there, then you needed to call it there. And that's my problem. But it wasn't just that. It was the pass interference on Clarence Lewis. That referee had no angle on that play. That, to me, should not have been pass interference. There's a couple other plays where just like, what are you guys doing? It was a poorly officiated game.
Yeah,
poorly officiated game. Got a super sticker from Bronx ND fan. Thank you. I haven't seen you in a while on the shows, man. So I'm glad to see you. Appreciate you very much.
Mark 1 with the super chat. Thank you very much. Question: why was Ford back on kickoffs when we have so much speed to pick from on the roster? Well, he's one of them.
Well, yeah, he's one of them.
he's one of those guys. Yeah. And look, they had Love and him back there, right? If I'm not mistaken, right?
I didn't see who the up back was.
Okay. Either way, I think if you look at the stable of running backs, right, I think Devin Ford is one of the guys that may not get as many touches from the backfield as some of the other guys, especially as the season starts to wear on. So he's a great kid. He came to Notre Dame as a
Yeah.
transfer. So what do? You put him on kickoff return.
Right.
That's
No, and he's
absolutely a great spot
and
for him.
Devin's a pretty quick kid too. Like he's
Yeah,
a
for
good make
sure.
you miss kind of. He's not as
Yep.
fast as some of the other running backs, but he's got some make you miss ability. And
Yeah.
in the return game, you need a little make you miss
Yep.
ability. So I mean, I'm fine with it. And
Yeah.
I think they're trying to break. I mean, and plus, obviously, clearly Jeremiah Love was built into the game plan offensively. So was Jadain
Right.
Price. So it's not. Those guys are getting touches on offense, and then Devin's getting touches in the special team. So it's also a way to kind of spread those touches out with other players, and I think that makes part of it as well to me.
Anthony Solomon with the super chat. Thank you so much. He says, "Thanks for the show, gentlemen." You know what, Anthony? You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate that, Anthony, very much. Another one from Ed3. Great show,
Ed.
guys. Appreciate you, Ed. Thank you for that, man. Appreciate you.
Bishop Fife, thank you for another super chat. This is off topic, but I saw that Drew Pine was out for ASU's game due to injury. Do either of you know the story there? Hamstring, right?
Tore his hamstring, I believe, in camp.
Oh,
like he was actually yeah, I think so. At the time, he was the number one quarterback. He was expected to start at that time. I mean, it was kind of middle of fall camp, and my understanding, I could be wrong. So but my understanding was I thought I read that he tore it. Like he's going to be out for a while. He's going to be out for a little while for sure. But yeah, that was the bummer there.
If he tore it, that really stinks.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, from our guy Gideon, do you think that Jaden Greathouse should have played more? I felt like Rico played way more today. I don't think so.
They play different positions. I mean,
that's true.
Do I think Jaden should have played more? I mean, look, they're rotating those receivers in quite a bit. I mean, so they all played.
Yeah, it's
so
a heavy rotation for sure.
I had no issue with the amount of snaps that Rico. Again, Rico's playing outside receiver. Jaden's playing slot.
And they were in a lot of 12 personnel today too.
Yeah. Now that's something that to me we'll talk about. Well, we'll talk about that more tomorrow. We're going to have some conversations about that tomorrow. Let's go down. I want to get through some of the team questions, and then there's another question about some of the games today that we'll get to as well.
Jacob Mears question: what good things did we see that will translate to other opponents? What good things did we see that won't translate to other opponents? Then vice versa for the bad things. He's just giving us show topics. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, which I like. I mean, look, Vince, we talked about this, and I'll let you kind of give your impression on it. But the biggest thing is, the focus wasn't always there today. But the thing that I love, and you and I have said this, is as coaches, what you don't want to have to teach is to get, if you're having to push guys to play hard, to play fast, to be violent, do those as a football player. If you're having to teach that, you've got a problem. And that's not what we saw today. That translates. Because if you're playing at least hard against Tennessee State, I know you're going to play hard against NC State next week. Right. And so to me, that more than anything is what will translate. There's a lot of schematic things that'll be better, different, or whatever, but that's what this team needs to be. Is if you can bring that kind of effort for the most part every week, I think that's what you start feeling good about as a football team.
No doubt. And the efficiency, I mean, overall,
gosh.
And we said this after last week, right? It's the offensive efficiency from play caller all the way down into the game, and then just the execution and the overall efficiency of scoring touchdowns on touchdown drives. Again, for those of you that were not with us when we first started the show, Sam Hartman has been in charge of 12 offensive drives in a Notre Dame uniform. They've scored touchdowns on 11 of those 12, and one was a missed field goal.
Right.
So efficiency, man, like that is huge to me right now.
No, I'm pretty sure that Sam Hartman's not going to complete 83% of his passes for the rest of the year.
Right. Fair.
But when you are playing inferior opponent, you're doing what you're supposed to do, which he's completing over 80% of his passes right now, because he was over 80 last week and he was over 80 again today.
Yeah.
Like that level of efficiency, Vince, like you talk about, is really impressive. I mean, we saw it last week. What was Notre Dame? They were like 7.8 yards per play last week. Let me just look this up real quick. Their total offense last week, they were 7.8 yards per play last week, which is really good. Today they were 8.8 yards per play. So
also really good.
Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of do the math here. What do they have? 567 today, Vince? Is that what their yardage total was today? Right. was it 557? Sorry. So they were 557 today, 444 last week. So they've had 1,001 yards in 2 games. And then they had 63 plays today, 57 last week. So that's 120, correct? So divided by 120, that's 8.3 yards per play the last 2 weeks. Now that's not sustainable from
Right.
a raw number standpoint. Like Notre Dame will not end the season at 8.3 yards per play. They won't. But to your point, Vince, the efficiency aspect of it does translate. Because like the number one yards per play team in the country last year was Ohio State. They were at 7.28. They're not going to average 8.3 yards per play the rest of the year. But the point that Vince made that was spot on was, but they're so the efficiency will come down when they play better opponents. But that foundation of being real efficient running the ball, being real efficient throwing the ball, those things translate. Maybe not to that high number, so maybe Sam Hartman doesn't complete 83% of his passes next week. He's only at 73. Oh, still really good.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And again, the other thing too is they average 11.2 yards per attempt today. They only average 14 yards per completion, right? Like they've got to get more big plays. That's something that needs to still continue to get better. The lack of big plays in the pass game, and that includes 2 40-yard touchdowns that came via running backs catching the ball not very far down the line of scrimmage, past the line of scrimmage, and making big plays. That's something that's still a little bit concerning. So when you talk about, bad things, that doesn't all of a sudden get better just because now that you're playing better teams, it just gets better. You got to get better there. You've got to find more ways. And that's something that we said earlier is like, look, it's great that Sam Hartman's efficient, but one of the best things that Sam Hartman did as a quarterback at Wake Forest is throw the ball down the field. I want to see Notre Dame do that, throw the ball down the field more. And that would be something that we have seen that I don't like, that I hope doesn't translate and carry over to future games. They're going to have to get better there, in my opinion. All right, let's get to some more here. Vince, yeah, this is an easy answer.
All right, Michael has a great question. Apparently, there is no way that J Love gets a red shirt, right? No.
You are correct.
There's
you
no
are
way.
correct. There was so there was another question about Kenny Minchie in a red shirt. And so I do want to address the red shirt thing. First of all, Michael, Mr. Rushkanoff, no, there was never any intention of redshirting Jeremiah Love. That was never going to happen. He could still redshirt though. I mean, if he can still play 2 more games in redshirt. Like, let's just, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say it. But yeah, if he plays 4 games and then isn't able to play anymore, then he would get a red shirt. The rule used to be you played a game, you were done. But now it's 4 games. You can play 4 games. You play more than 4, and your red shirt's blown. So there was never any intention of getting Jeremiah Love
right
red shirt. That was never part of the plan.
Nope.
Now with Kenny Minchie now, somebody asked about that he still has 3. He can play 3 more games before he's at risk of losing his red shirt.
Right.
So again, you can play 4, so he can still play in 3 more games beyond what he has already done. So, and real quick, go ahead.
If the 4-game rule wasn't in place, and it's been in place for a few years now, if that rule wasn't in place, you would not have seen Kenny Minchie get snaps today.
No,
they're not going to burn his red shirt on Tennessee State,
but they know they've got against Tennessee State, right?
But they know they've got 4 games to play with, and they're like, well, let's give them one, because look, it's going to be rare that you get to your 3rd string quarterback, okay?
Right.
And so they figure, hey, this is a great opportunity to get him some live snaps in Notre Dame Stadium. And they did. Yep. And I'm glad that they did.
Yep. Agree. That was smart. I like that they did that. But yeah, he's Jeremiah Love's definitely not redshirting. He's a dude. If anything, you're like, if you're the other running backs, including Audric Estime, you're like, I better step up my game, because this guy's really good. This guy's really good.
And he wants.
And same with Jadarian Price. You're like, that guy's really good. That dude can ball. There's no doubt.
Mark 1 with the super chat. Thanks, Mark. What do you guys think with Prime, winner today, transferring 85% of his team with the portal?
I listened to a little bit of that game before we got going, and Gus was it? I couldn't remember if it was Gus Johnson or Joel Klatt. One of the two said Deion Sanders arrived at Colorado at the perfect time because he couldn't have done this 3-4 years ago.
That's a
He
good
would have had
point.
to take that bad roster. Now, I want to see them do it more. And we had another question from Tyler Bengi, but he brought it up too. But look, I was impressed by what I saw from Colorado today. They won today for two reasons. One is they played really well and were coached really well. And two, TCU made a lot of dumb mistakes. I mean, they had 2 interceptions near the goal, one in the goal line, one in the end zone, one near the end zone. They were blowing coverages and all that. But you know what Colorado did when they did blow those coverages? They beat them. They burned them. They took advantage. It's not
Still
Shedeur
got to do
Sanders'
that.
fault
Yeah.
that TCU blew coverages. So every time they did, you know what he did? Completed a pass for a big play. I mean, I was really impressed by it. My big question is, I don't know how it's possible that Travis Hunter's going to play over 100 snaps every game. I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just don't.
I mean,
Especially
if
it was over 100 degrees today.
Yeah,
if
he repeats what he did today every game, yeah, I mean, the guy's the Heisman Trophy winner, no doubt about it. Prime's right. He's 100% right. I'll be waiting for him at home.
Right.
But is that a sustainable thing? This isn't high school, guys. That's going to be really, really tough to do.
Now, what they might do was maybe like there might be some games that they decide to not do it, right? You know, maybe there's some games they pull back a little bit on the offense or something. But I thought they were very well coached today. They played hard. There are still some limitations on their roster from certain personnel standpoint that TCU didn't take advantage of. But I was really impressed by what I saw from Colorado today. I didn't think they had I thought they'd keep it, competitive for a while. I didn't think they could win this game. I didn't. That's a heck of a way for Coach Sanders to start his career. No doubt about it. And Vince, I want him to be successful. I've said that from day one.
Sure. Yeah.
And for a host of reasons. But that was a heck of a win for Colorado. And honestly, it's a great win for the Big 12. Because I know it was a loss for the Big 12 today, but Colorado is one of those programs that, if they're run right, can be a powerhouse in the Big 12. I mean, they used to be, right? I mean, last time Notre Dame won a national title, that was a stretch where Colorado was really good. They won a championship 2 years later, and then they would have won a title in '89 if it wasn't for Notre Dame. I mean, Colorado went into the Orange Bowl in '89 ranked number 1, not Miami. Yeah. Colorado was. And Notre Dame smacked them, which allowed Miami to go win a title. Because I think Miami lost to Florida State that year, I think. And so they beat Notre Dame. But what was Miami's? I'm pretty sure Miami had a loss that year. Yeah, they went 11. Yeah, they lost to Florida State at Florida State, 24-10. And actually, hold on a second. Wasn't Deion Sanders on that '89 Florida State team? No, he was a first-round pick in '89, so his last year at Florida State was '88. But, look, people can – and I talked about this summer. Everybody I can't believe he's, getting rid of all those players. And I'm like, why? That's the rules.
Yeah, he's not
supposed to take advantage of the rule that somebody else put in place. Why? Why? Because you don't like it? If you don't like it, change the rules. Like, what I get mad about is when guys cheat. Like, I can't stand when coaches are like offering players, and if he's doing that, that's wrong. But I promise you, he didn't need to offer Travis Hunter a penny to get him to follow him. Travis Hunter was going to follow Deion. Deion Sanders got hired at Anchorage University, and he was going to start a football team from scratch at Anchorage University. Travis Hunter is going to Anchorage University to play for Deion Sanders.
Yep, no doubt about it.
That's the reality of it. And here's the other thing. His quarterback, Deion Sanders has been given improper benefits to the quarterback transfer he had. He put the diapers on that kid. He's been feeding that kid for 20 years. Yeah, that's not – I'm joking because that's his son is the quarterback, right? But he's taking advantage of the rules. Why would he not do that? And it's, what? It's worked so far. One game.
Yeah.
One game.
Yeah, but one game down.
You beat the defending national runners-up. That's a heck of a way for him to announce his authority in that conference.
And he's got all the bulletin board material that he needs. He's like, nobody believed in us. That's right. The whole song and dance, man. He had it ready to go. And he is playing that fiddle.
And he should.
That's 100%.
He should.
Absolutely.
What was Ryan and I saying about Colorado? TCU is going to win. That's still not a very good roster. I mean, we were down. I was doubting it. I'll own it.
100%.
I didn't think they were going to win that game. They got some good players, but man, these guys aren't going to go out there and do that in game one.
Well,
No. I mean, I was saying if they go 6-6 this year, Dion should be coach of the year in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And if they go 6-6, I mean, again, one game, let's not overreact, but that one game was against a pretty good team.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was a heck of a win. Heck of a win. This was a great comment from Andre Tonsel, and this is really what it boils down to. Andre says, can't expect perfection every week, but building blocks are there. I will agree with the second part. You should always demand perfection, because you're never going to be perfect. That means you've always got something to work towards.
Yeah, demanding and expecting are two different things.
Right. Yeah. I always demand perfection.
Yeah.
But to your point, Andre, is there are certain building blocks you look at and say, hey, we're not where we need to be yet, but keep doing this. Keep doing what you're doing right there, and then we'll fix this other stuff. And like you said, Andre, those building blocks, those foundational blocks are certainly there. And those are good things.
Yep.
Those
absolutely.
are good things.
You demand perfection.
That's right.
Demand it. That's why it's the whole shoot for the stars, land on the moon kind of thing. Like you always shoot for perfection, and you get as darn near close to it as you can. And when you're not there, you coach it up. Man, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. That's football. That's sports. That's life.
That's right.
I'm getting deep over here.
Yes, you are. Andre and Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. Are you not entertained? Sam Hartman. Yeah, thank you for the super chat, buddy.
I did enjoy the after he flipped into the end zone, he did the whole crowd. Like, that was awesome.
He's got swagger.
Oh yeah.
Right? That kid's got swagger.
Yep.
And I like that.
He bet on himself.
And because it bleeds into other people.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I like that.
Camden Hirschberger, Brian, do you know how wide the gap was between Angelo and Angeli? It's like Angelo, he's a new player. Angeli and Minchie prior to this game.
I don't. Hey, Vince, can you take the next couple of questions? I got to go check on something here real quick.
I certainly can. All right. So Brian's going to exit stage left for a moment. Let's see what other questions we've got. All right. So that one has been asked. Yeah. Let me just elaborate on this just a little bit, Camden. I think that we talked a lot about the fact that we thought that maybe Minchie would overtake, or, one of those kinds of things. To Steve Angeli's credit, that didn't happen during fall camp. I don't know how close things got, but Angeli was number 2 going in, and he was number 2 coming out. So, he must have done enough to kind of keep his place, and he didn't play great today, but his stat line's looking pretty stinking good. 2 touchdowns. I think he was like 8 of 11 or something along those lines. Let me check here, just so I am speaking truths. Yeah, 8 of 11, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, 73% completion percentage. He had a 232 quarterback rating. Okay, so he played pretty well. And then Kenny Minchie comes in and goes 2 for 2 for 12 yards. So, I think Steve Angeli's, the fact that he's been in the program a little bit longer, a whole year longer, he has more of a grasp on the offense, things of that nature. So, athletically, obviously one is more talented than the other, but from a complete standpoint, I think Angeli still is holding on to number 2. Good for him. I think that's awesome. I'm just going to go right down the line here with questions that Brian already has starred. Josh Phillips, should we be worried about the lack of productions from the wide receivers today, though? Well, no, I don't think you should be worried about it, because Sam Hartman hit 10 different receivers in the first half, or receiving targets in the first half. He's going to throw it to whoever's open. Now, there are some things that the wide receivers need to do better, and that's one of the things that Brian and I are going to take a look at when we're watching the game back later on tonight and tomorrow. And we're going to talk about that and upon further review. But I'm not worried about the numbers right now. The wide receivers came in clutch on some third downs when they needed to. Sam Hartman was able to find those guys. They made plays. There was no egregious drops today that I can remember off the top of my head. I mean, they're out there playing, and Sam Hartman's going to find the open guy. So I think the level needs to jump a little bit as they go, there needs to keep climbing. But at this point, no, I'm not worried about the lack of production by the wide receivers. Brian, what do you think about that?
I would say that I'm worried. I think two things can be true at once. Number one is, does the production of receiver need to get a little better? Yeah, it does. Am I worried about it? No. To your point, Vince, because number one, they are spreading the ball around. They have literally not been had a competitive snap in the second half of a game yet.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the deal. Like, Sam Hartman threw for 190 some yards in the first half. If this game was a shootout, let's just say they were playing a team. Let's say Tennessee State was offensively just killing it today, and they were matching Notre Dame score for score. Well, Sam Hartman stays in the game, and they end up throwing for 400 yards in the game, right? Like, and now all of a sudden, Jaden Thomas catches how many passes did Jaden Thomas catch in the second half of the game today? I don't think he caught any. Maybe one, like a little quick tunnel screen, maybe. But like, he was on pace for 100 yards based on how they played in the first half. I mean, if anything, Josh, I think it's a fair question. But the reason I'm not worried too is because, like Vince talked about, how they're spreading the ball around. But the other thing too is when you're playing the way you're playing and you haven't had a breakout performance from the receivers yet, like, that's pretty good, right? Like, because they're gonna get better. We've seen Deion Colsey go off. We've seen Jaden Thomas go off. We've seen Tobias Merriweather get deep. Those are all things that will come. Now we need to see it, right? And so I do want to see them continue to improve in certain areas and play with a little bit more urgency and different things like that. But I'm not worried about it yet. I'll be worried if they aren't making plays next week. They just haven't needed it, really, Vince. I mean, that's part of the thing too, is they haven't really needed them to.
Yeah.
But when they have needed them to play, like, they haven't needed look. They didn't need the tight ends so far in the first two games. But you know what? They did on that 2-minute drive, and boom, 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 touchdown. Right? They just haven't needed to rely on that. And that's part of the thing too that you guys have to think about, is that because the ball has been spread around so much and just kind of everybody's getting open, that's you're not going to have one guy go off. I mean, it's like we went last year to complaining about how the quarterback always zeroes in on one guy. And now it's kind of like we're worried because not one guy's not going off. It's like, guys, isn't this what you wanted?
Yeah.
You wanted the ball spread around. Sam Hartman is reading the defense and going where the ball needs to go, putting the ball where it needs to go. That's kind of what we were complaining about not getting all of last year.
Yeah. Yep. I love the fact that the ball's being spread around and that it's a situation where, the open guy going through progressions, blah, blah, blah. We've said it a million times. But when it gets down to a time where a wide receiver needs to make a play, let's see if it happens.
That's the question, Vince. Where will they be when it's a money time? Because look, Notre Dame's not going to beat every opponent they play by 39 or more. Yeah, they're going to have some game. They're going to have a game. At least there's going to be games they're going to have to come back. Sure. There's going to be games they're going to have to win late. There's going to have to be games where they have to hold a team off. Like, you're up 4. You need a first down to put the game away. It's 3rd and 9. Who makes the play? We don't know that about this team yet. Partly because they've killed everybody they've played so far, right? I mean, so it's the unknown because of the circumstances of the game. We need to learn those things. And so to me, that's still a question mark. But there's a difference between something being a question mark and something being a concern.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, okay, need to see it, but I don't know that the circumstances have needed it, because last week it's like, okay, you got into a 2-minute last week and Jaden Thomas makes play, Braden Lynn, Chris Tyree makes a play, and you go out and you're good to go. Today it was the tight ends making those plays. That's a good thing.
Yep.
That's a good thing. That's where you want to be. That's a good place to be. It's a really good place to be. Now, to Vince's point, we're going to find out if they can be that guy.
Yeah, because they're going to need them. They're going to need the wide receivers to step up at some point.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And let's see if they do.
That's right. All right, we got a few more.
Tunde, our guy. Here we go. Do you think Dylan Edwards would have cracked that running back room as much as I would have loved him with us? It seems he's a better fit over there, meaning Colorado.
You'd have found a way to get Dylan Edwards the football. I think Dylan was being recruited at Notre Dame as more of kind of a slot guy. So he'd be basically playing where Chris Tyree is playing, more so than a running back. He'd have had a tougher time getting into the running back room because, he looked great today. But my whole point is kind of like, yeah, they look great today. But Notre Dame's, like you said, Notre Dame's guys look pretty flipping good too. Dylan just got a lot more opportunities because there's just one of him. It's kind of like there was a great comment that Lou Emoji made to me when we were talking one time about the 2012 Notre Dame game. Because a lot of you don't know this. Lou didn't travel to road games because we had the post game magazine we had to do, and Lou just felt it was easier to write and do. Yeah, Vince, to write and edit and do all the stuff he needed to do from, because you have to drive back to the hotel, and so he would be home and he would do all this. He didn't travel to road games, but he went to the title game in 2012, and he made this comment to me, and he said, "I remember sitting there, and he said, I look at Stephon Tuitt, and I'm like, that guy belongs on a field with Alabama because that's a man." And then he looked over, he said, but here's the issue. He goes, I looked over at Bama's sideline, and they had 5 Stephon Tuitts. Now, not that they were as good as Stephon Tuitt, but like that kind of mountain of a man, right? Like it was like Stephon Tuitt, and then it's like, like he actually said 8 of them. They got eight guys like that. And that's the difference, right? Is and then when you look at Dylan Edwards today, Vince, his impact didn't come as a running back. His impact came in the pass game. Right. He was catching the ball out. He only had 24 yards rushing. He did damage out of the backfield. He had like the little swing route and things like that. So that would have been more of where he would have been. That would have been more of where he would have had an impact. Would he have, again, he doesn't have to beat out Chris Tyree at Colorado. He doesn't have to beat out Jaden Greathouse at Colorado. Those things help. But that's what a loaded team is. Because like it's like this. Sometimes we say, well, this guy went to another school and he's really playing well, and the guy we took isn't playing well. I'm like, yeah, because the guy we took at Notre Dame is backing up this really good player, where the school this kid went to he's starting because who else was going to start? They went 1-11 last year. They were terrible.
Yeah.
But he's a good football player. We all knew that. That's why they wanted him.
Absolutely. Tyler Evans with a super chat. Have you seen other scores or the games that surprised you?
Actually, you know what, Tyler? I'm going to take this one down. Let's answer that one later so I can actually look at scores while we're doing some other stuff today. So, yeah, I'll bring that up.
Yeah. Mike Farino with the super chat. Thank you very much. How's it going today? It's going well, Mike. Thank you. Didn't really watch the Notre Dame game. Was way too busy cursing at the Buckeyes. Is the score pretty much how the game went?
Yeah, I mean, Mike's one of the Ohio State fans that comes into our chat, by the way. Just for some of you are like, why is this guy talking about Ohio State? Mike's an Ohio State fan. Mike. I mean, look, Notre Dame was the way more talented team today, and they played like it. They were sloppy at times, but they played hard and they dominated. I mean, what was it, 35? Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why that's happening, Vince. So it's just whatever, StreamYard. But look, I think they scored 1 offensive touchdown in the second half, or 2 offensive touchdowns in the second half, right? And then a pick 6 in the second half. I mean, they had 35 at halftime. They could have hung 70 on Tennessee State if they wanted to, but they pulled their start at halftime. So yeah, it pretty much went the way the score shows. So yeah, but hey, man, look, Mike, you got the W. Game 1, man. Don't stress out. I promise you, Ohio State's going to score more than 23 points a game this year. Just one game, right? Just work the kinks out. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Very interesting one.
Matt Lee. Okay, here we go. NC State has a lot to worry about, knowing that they'll have 4 running backs to deal with, right, Vincent Bryan?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not just that, but then they got to deal with Holden Stace and Mitchell Evans and Jaden Thomas and Chris Tyree and Jaden Greathouse and Tobias Merriweather and Rico Flores and Blake Fisher and Joe Walt and Sam Hart. And that's what gets you excited is like, look, yeah, that Notre Dame's still got a lot to work on, right? But man, there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
The way, look, Notre Dame's offense right now, 2 games, right? We've given you the numbers. We've talked about, the scoring drives and all of that. A defensive coordinator is going to watch the film. He's going to look at the stat sheet, and he's going to see, oh, crap. Well, this guy got, Hartman found 9 different receivers in game 1. He found 10 different receivers in game 2. Okay, so the passing game is going to be a problem. Oh, wait, they've got this stable of running backs that not only can run between the tackles and run outside, but they're also a threat to catch the ball, And then they've got these bookend tackles that there's plenty of NFL teams that wouldn't mind having these 2 on their roster.
Yeah.
What do I take away? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a conundrum for any defensive coordinator, right? So this is a great place to be if you're a Notre Dame fan, folks. Now, this game is not going to, they're not going to walk into NC State Stadium and NC State's be like, yeah, you guys are right. We forfeit. You're too good for
Right.
us. That's not going to happen. Like, this is going to be a game. But Notre Dame's got a lot going for them offensively, folks, especially after 2 games. Let's see if they can build on this, throughout the season. But right now, on paper and on film, Notre Dame's very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. It's fun to be a Notre Dame fan right now.
Yep, it really is. It really is. I hope it continues, but yeah, it is a lot of fun right now.
Rick. Yes, a team that has to improve, but my eyes tell me that is easily the closest Notre Dame team to an SEC talent and depth that we've had.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I would argue that talent-wise, the 2015 team was there. And we had this conversation the other day, Vince. I mean, that was, you got Jalen Smith, Will Fuller, CJ Prosise, Josh Adams, Kavari Russell, Cole Luke. I mean, that team had some dudes. This team is very deep. I mean, even when you're putting your backups on the field, you're like, these guys are really talented. That's why Tennessee State didn't threaten to score on the third. I mean, they were putting third-team guys in there, and Tennessee State still couldn't really move the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because it's like, yeah, our third-team guy's starter for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the reality of it.
And that's the reality of an upper Power 5 team and an FCS team, right? I mean, that's just that is what it is. Notre Dame's walk-ons had D1 scholarship offers. Okay, that's where we're at.
Some of them, absolutely.
And that's just, you know what I mean? I believe Justin Fisher had an offer from a service academy. You got the 2 guys that came in, this year who had offers from D1 schools. Like, that's your walk-on group, guys. And they're playing an FCS team. Every one of those kids would have played. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yep. Absolutely.
Joseph Steve, I was curious how you gentlemen felt about the pass rush. It seemed like they were pressuring, but not quite getting there.
I don't really, I've said this before, Vince, I don't really care about sacks. I've said this before. This is not new for me. I care about disruptions, and the quarterback could not set his feet in the pocket today. If the linebackers and defensive ends, when they were in contain, would have done a better job of keeping contain, the pass rush is fine. They forced a lot of incompletions today. The quarterback could not set his feet. Yeah, they didn't get a sack, but that pressure right up the middle by Howard Cross forced an interception. Hey, you know what I would have rather had on that play than a Howard Cross sack? A Ramon Henderson interception. Right? The pick 6 from Clarence Lewis. I can't remember who it was, but there was a pressure on the play. Quarterback was trying to get rid of the ball. You know what I'd rather have than a sack? A Clarence Lewis pick 6.
Yeah, right.
Right? So
good call.
I mean, yeah, it's nice to have pressures, but look, there are some things also at the same time, Joseph. I wonder if his name is Steve Joseph or I'm not sure. But anyway, Joseph Steve, the thing is there are also some things that need to be corrected to where they should have hit home on a couple pressures. You had a couple times they kind of took not the greatest angle on the outside, and a couple times they lost contain up the middle. A couple times they lost contain on the outside. There's some things they need to do to get there, but you'll never hear me look at sack numbers and say the pass rush wasn't good enough today. They only had 1 sack, right? Now, that would be true if I said, like, they had 3 missed sacks. You got to bring the guy down. When you hit him, you got to bring him down. That wasn't the case today. They were very disruptive, was what I'll say today, especially up the middle. Part of the reason, too, we didn't see quite as much from the edges, they were dropping Jordan Patelho into coverage quite a bit from what I could tell during the game.
They really were. I saw him drop multiple times in the first half. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's arguably, maybe not arguably, your best pass rusher. So,
well, but we talked about in the show on Friday, Vince, that like that's one of the things he brings to the table is he does bring that coverage element that you can use. Yeah,
makes him versatile, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think number 40 might have something to say about it, but we'll see how that turns out.
Good. I want to see a third down package that has Burnham and Patelho on the field at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome, dude. Yes.
I definitely want to see that. I want to see a nickel package where you've got Riley Mills up the middle. You've got Burnham and Patelho there, and Jalen Sneed as one of your nickel linebackers. Good luck blocking that on 3rd and 9. You know what I mean? Like, just run a screen or a draw, because that's about the only chance you're going to have. That was, boy. And I think this one is actually from John.
Oh,
So,
okay.
because at the end of all these, like the first time I thought that it was Katie saying "just kidding," but I've seen it now 3 of them in a row. So John Keevers is Katie's husband. He's a member of the site too. So I think this is actually John posting under Katie's handle, and that's why he's putting JK. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So I think this is John.
Oh, so he's not just kidding. That's just who he
Yes,
is.
exactly. I think
Gotcha.
this is John.
Okay.
I think the JK equals John Keevers.
I've been spending
So
too much
that's
time
what
with
I'm
high school
thinking.
kids.
Yeah.
So,
So
all right.
John, actually, if you can let me know if I'm correct on that down there, but I think that's what. Yeah.
So he's not kidding about the fact that he wants to know at what point in the season will they take the training wheels off of Price.
But see, that's what I was thinking. It was just kidding. And then I saw
Right.
the other post where it said the JK, and that's what made me think it's actually John. I would say maybe middle of the year, because here's the thing, Keevers family, is they don't need to right now, right? Like, they don't need to ramp up his touches. Like, there was another question that was kind of similar to this. Somebody said this. It was let me find it. It was Marcus Kerr said this. He says, "I don't like how Jadarian Price is the 5th back. I think he should be your number 2. Maybe it was just the game though." Well, number 1, he wasn't the 5th back. They have packages for different running backs, and sometimes the package that one guy's a part of gets put in there faster than before. But here's the other thing: the guy that was the number 2 back today, I believe, was Jeremiah Love, because he came on the first series, and what did he do the first time he touched the ball? He went 36 yards for a touchdown. So to me, there's no need to ramp up Jadarian's workload right now. Why? What you're doing is working. You got some dudes back there. So, there will be a game, Vince, where Jadarian will be hot and you ride him.
Yep, absolutely.
But just right now, because of the depth that you have, I would take my time. Like, honestly, I would take my time. I mean, Jadarian's got 2 touchdowns already. And he scored the second rushing touchdown of the season. I mean, he scored a touchdown in the first quarter against Navy last week because the package that he's a part of was in the game. So I don't view, to Marcus's point, I'm not worried about, I don't view him as the 5th. I don't think it's like Aldrich's a starter, but then it's like, that's on the depth chart. It's or. And that really is accurate in this particular instance. It is really an or. And I mean, look, it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I mean,
right, yeah.
It's working. It's working. This is an interesting one, Vince.
From Sloaney, is it possible they haven't opened up their full offense yet? I think there's some truth to that for sure. I mean,
it's legit.
Look, somebody in the chat earlier said, we were talking about, the deep ball and all these different things. And look, Brian and I were talking about it during the game. It's like, man, I wish they would just pull the trigger and go deep or, whatever. And somebody in the chat said, the great thing is they haven't needed to do that yet.
Right.
And it's true, right? I mean, why do you have the deep ball in your arsenal? You have it for multiple reasons. Obviously, number 1 is you connect on it for a big play. Number 2 is you have the threat of the deep ball, so they need to respect it so you can do some things underneath, both in the passing game and in the run game, right? They haven't needed to. They've been able to pick apart defenses without that threat. Now, they're going to be playing defenses that are better where they are going to need to have that deep threat. And so with that in mind, Sloaney, I do think that they haven't really scratched the surface on what they want to do offensively from a full depth and breadth standpoint, right? I think that's absolutely accurate.
Yeah. Agree.
Homer TD with the super chat. Thank you very much. 98-6. I'm okay with that. Thanks, guys, for the show.
So far, so good. Absolutely.
I mean, look, if you'd have told me that that's going to be the combined score in the first 2 games, I've been like, take it. Like, yep, sure. Okay, cool, man. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. Sign me up.
Absolutely. Carlos Garza, since we got to see the young linebackers, how do you feel about the depth there?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see Drake Bowen today because he was out, I believe, with a concussion. But Jaden Osbury looked really athletic. Really athletic. He's really athletic.
He's just chopped. He felt like a racehorse in the gate. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about that one? There was one play where like Jaden was
Yep.
blitzing and he kept like, dang it. And the quarterback would like get up and then Jaden would like start. And then the guy would look around and Jaden was like, oh, back up. And I was like, that kid wants to blitz so dang bad right now.
He was. It was like they just put him in the starting gate as like a racehorse. He's like, come on.
Yeah, it was great. I thought that was awesome. So it was good to see. But look, the depth is still unproven there. And then Nolan Ziegler being out is something that's hurt their depth a little bit. But Jalen Snead's played a lot the first 2 weeks, and that's good. They were playing a lot of nickel today. So we didn't see a ton of Jack Kaiser in the first half because they were playing a lot of nickel. And when Jack came in, he was kind of coming in as like the number 2 Mike. Because you had Drake out and Nolan Ziegler out. So you're down 2 Mikes right now behind JD. And so Jack actually played a lot there. But they played a lot more nickel today. And I think that's what we're going to see more of that from Notre Dame in future games than we will see the base defense with 3 linebackers on the field. And so when you're in a 2 linebacker defense, your depth is great because your depth now is Jack Kaiser and Jalen Snead, then your freshman. As opposed to when you're in your 4-3 and you've now have to have Jack as on the field and you don't have him to rotate inside. So it's good so far. I'm happy for it. I just want to say I wish Drake was healthy enough to play. That would have been nice to see.
I wish that Jalen Snead would have stuck that kid in the open field.
Yeah.
That would have made me feel a lot better about things. But he wasn't the only one that was missing tackles. But like that one, I would have really liked to see him come down with.
I agree.
Sing Kevin. All right. What is your very early take on Angeli as a potential starter for next year? For all the complaints about Buckner last year, Angeli seemed even less ready to be a starter.
I mean, yeah, on game 2, for a guy that's never played a meaningful snap before. I mean, look, I'm not a Steve Angeli guy. Like, I think he's a great kid. And Vince, you just watch him in pregame. He's like that try-hard guy. So, like, the quarterbacks finish a drill and they're heading over another section and Steve's like full out sprinting over there, and the other guys are like just jogging, like the other quarterbacks do. And Steve's like in a full-on dead sprint, like, gotta get there. He's that try-hard guy. And I kind of like that about him. You know what I mean? But I just don't think he's super talented for a guy that you're going to want to go win a championship with at Notre Dame. I just don't. But that doesn't mean like that's not how I evaluate Steve. I don't evaluate Steve of is he going to be the guy next year. I evaluate Steve on is I think Steve Angeli could be a great backup quarterback that's going to come off the bench. He's going to be calm. He's going to be poised. He's a smart kid. He's a decent athlete. He can sustain, extend plays and some things like that. Like that's a great kid to have as a backup quarterback. No, I don't think he's a starter at Notre Dame for a team that's going to compete for a championship. I just don't. I hope he proves me wrong, though. I love the kid. When I watch him throw the ball around and I watch Kenny Minchie and Sam Hartman throw the ball around, it's just different.
This is different.
And that's okay. I've never said that Steve Angeli is going to be the guy. We've said all along if they don't have this is why didn't want Tyler Buckner to leave, because if something happens to Sam Hartman, I'd much rather turn to him than Kenny or Steve, because those guys just aren't ready yet. But, look, today was a good chance to get those guys some experience, though, and that's good. That's a positive, obviously. Yeah. There's a question in here that I don't understand. I'm going to ask somebody a question here real quick. Go to the next one, Ryan.
Yeah. Yep. Charlie Weiss's last belt loop with the super chat. Can you see any big-time recruits not originally interested at Notre Dame now looking Notre Dame's way, or will it take beating Ohio State to see it? Look, if a recruit wasn't looking at Notre Dame at all, it's going to take more than beating Navy and Tennessee State.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line, right? I mean, they're going to have to make some noise in order to turn some heads, and beating Ohio State is the noise that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Now, they're also going to have to sustain it. You can't just beat Ohio State and then lay an egg in some other games.
Yeah.
You have to sustain it, I think, throughout the season. I'm not saying you have to go undefeated, but you got to sustain it. But as of 2 games, no, that's not going to turn anybody's head, man. No.
Next week actually can help with that. I mean, look, you go on the road and beat NC State and is convincing. I mean, look, they're not going to beat NC State 56-3 or 42-3. That's not going to happen. But let's say you beat them 31-14. that's going to start turning more heads, especially since Notre Dame likes to recruit North Carolina so much.
Sure.
Right? Trust me, folks, NC State's going to have – that's their big recruiting weekend. Like next weekend when they host Notre Dame, that's going to be NC State's like, okay, you know, all these recruits we're trying to get. Look, here's the rest of their home games, right? Notre Dame, Louisville, Marshall, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina. Clemson, Miami, great. This is their big weekend. This is the game that they're saying, hey, we're going to try to convince people. And then obviously Clemson will be another one. They're going to have a lot of kids on campus that Notre Dame wants, 25 kids, 24 kids. A lot of those North Carolina kids that like Notre Dame, you're going to see some of them at the game next weekend. One of the things I'm going to have Ryan work on this week is find out who NC State's going to have on campus this weekend and see how many of those kids are Notre Dame targets. You know, because I remember when Notre Dame played Clemson back in 2015, Notre Dame was trying to recruit Troy Pride, and he visited Clemson that weekend. And Notre Dame, you know, played well. They lost, but you know he was impressed with how they played, and he liked Notre Dame a lot that weekend. But NC State starts to move the needle as far as, you know, maybe you like Notre Dame, but you don't love Notre Dame. I think where the first two games help, Charlie, is kids that already liked Notre Dame. If you're a running back that, like, if you're Justin Thurman or Keedron Young or Aeneas Williams, and you're like, I like Notre Dame. I'm you know, you're seeing what you saw the first 2 weeks. You're like, I'm loving it. I could be the number 5 back, and I'm going to touch the football in the first half of every game. You know what I mean? Like that's who's loving it. If you're a running back who likes Notre Dame, but you're not sure how you feel about Notre Dame, yeah, you're probably seeing something. But like other kids, like to your point, Vince, are like, yeah, I like Notre Dame. They're okay. Oh my gosh, they beat Tennessee State 56-3. That they beat Navy 4. That's not moving the needle. But I don't think we have to necessarily wait all the way to Ohio State. NC State starts that process. And then Ohio State that's the big one. That's the whole, this is the monkey you have to get off your back. And that's the one that's going to really, 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 really kind of, you know, that's what we're going to have to see. That's going to be the big one.
Absolutely.
So we do have this, Vince. Let's kind of get to some of these. Have you had a chance to look at some of these scores today? There are some very interesting scores. So if you want to look at the games being played right now.
Well, let me for the people who are listening on a podcast, I want to make sure I say what this is that we're talking about.
It's Tyler Evans. Sorry. Go ahead, Vince.
No, you're good. Tyler Evans super chat. He says, have you seen other scores from games that surprised you? And so we put that one on hold so we could kind of look at some of the scoreboard and, you know, stuff like that. My
dad texted me this a little bit ago, and the score has changed since my dad texted me, but Texas State in the fourth quarter is beating Baylor 42-24.
Blowing the doors off of them.
Yeah, now Baylor has got it 1st and 10 at the 11-yard line. And so if they can score here, it's 42-31 with 10 minutes left. But still, they are whooping Baylor right now. They are absolutely whooping Baylor right now. Bama's beating Middle Tennessee. Bama has a very weird stat line, Vince. I was looking at their stats. They have 42 points right now. They're beating Middle Tennessee 42-6. Excuse me, 42-7 end of the third quarter. And I'm like, well, I wonder what the offensive numbers are like. They have 194 passing yards and 130 rushing yards. I'm thinking, well, that's not great. I was like, you know, they've only got like 324 yards of offense. That's not great. And then I looked at the Gamecast, and it's like, okay, yeah, it actually makes a little bit more sense now. So they forced some turnovers because they've had scoring drives of 47-yard touchdown drive, 42-yard touchdown drive, 2 plays, 47-yard touchdown drive, 1 play, 67-yard touchdown drive, and then another touchdown drive, those 2 plays and 34 yards. So they're getting a bunch of short fields because of their defense and special teams. But that's a weird stat line. Very weird stat line. They've actually only forced 1 turnover. So it must be like return game or something, like, or some shank punts or something. I'm trying to figure out how that's happening. But yeah, they've had some very short fields. Oh, they had let's see here. Trying to see the kick return numbers here. They don't show it. 5. Oh yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry has five punt returns for 66 yards. That's one. I haven't seen any kick return yardage yet. But yeah, They're dominating. Some other games, Vince, some other scores. Penn State's up on West Virginia 24-7. They just started the fourth quarter. The score doesn't anything, but actually West Virginia's doing a decent job against the Penn State running attack. They've only got 105 rushing yards, but Drew Aller is 20 of 28 for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. The guy that Brian Kelly didn't want to make a run for, right? They slow played because of Brian Kelly. Like, ridiculous. Freaking guy. But Nicholas Singleton has only got 53 yards and 9 carries. He's only got 53 yards so far in the game. North Carolina is beating the doors off of South Carolina right now, 31-14. And Drake May is going off.
And it was close at halftime. And third quarter took a turn, basically. I had that one on over here.
It took a hard turn right now.
Yeah.
It was 17-14 at halftime, Vince, to your point.
Yeah.
And then North Carolina, looks like North Carolina came out and took the first drive of the second half right down the field, 53 yards on 6 plays, scored a touchdown, got the ball back and went right down the field again, 55 yards on 8 plays. Drake May's having himself a day today. Looking at the box score, he's 23 of 29 for 266 yards. Spencer Rattler's 12 of 18 for 187 yards. Everybody talks about the North Carolina defense not being there very good. Right now, South Carolina has 15 rushing yards on 24 carries.
Wow.
Yeah, their leading rusher has 23 yards on 12 carries. Spencer Rattler's at -2. Xavier Legette's at -2. Juju McDowell's at -4. They have 3 running backs and 3 ball carriers in the minuses right now. So that North Carolina defense that I thought would be better this year, so far, they're playing much better. Now we got to see if they can do it for 4 quarters. That's going to be a bit of a question mark. I said in the game this week, a game that I thought that could be a little shaky is I thought Toledo could give Illinois a game. And right now, Illinois just scored to go up on Toledo 20-19. That's a very competitive game right now so far. Virginia Tech's only up by 6 on Old Dominion. Let's see some of the finals. That 23-3 final between Ohio State and Indiana, that was
surprising. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Indiana's bad. And I haven't watched the game yet, right? So I'm just looking at the box score, Vince. But the big question I had about Ohio State wasn't so much the quarterback play, it was the offensive line. I've been saying this all summer. And Ohio State only rushed for 143 yards on 31 carries. That's like, 4-something a carry, right? That's not great. That's not a great sign. Again, game 1, but you only average 4.6 yards per carry against Indiana. That's not a great place to be if you're Ohio State. Again, game 1, but that's not. And this is a team that gave up 175 rushing yards a game last year, Indiana. And Notre Dame, and last year Ohio State rushed for 340 yards against them last year in November. So like late in the year. That's not a great start to your season running football.
And Travion Henderson had 12 carries for 47 yards and a long of 19.
Yeah.
So that means just about 20 yards, which is almost half of his entire yardage, came on 1 carry.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now I would like to watch that game for some more context, but still.
Marvin Harrison had 2 catches for 18 yards.
I mean, there you go. Right?
Yeah. That's not an ideal situation. Michigan, their win over East Carolina was more convincing than the final. It was 30-0, and then Michigan kind of called off the dogs a little bit. Boise was beating Washington early.
Well, not at the end.
Oh my gosh! So I remember when we were still at the stadium, Boise was up 9-7, and then when we got home, and I'm like, they ended up scoring 3 straight touchdowns, and then just blew them out in the second half. They scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and their backup quarterback threw a touchdown pass too. Beat Boise 56-19. That was
the next score that jumped out at me.
Yeah, Texas was not sharp against Rice. It was 16-3 at halftime. They ended up scoring 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. Did you see the score of the Oregon-Portland game? 81-7.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
Good. That's a lot of touchdowns.
That's a lot of flipping touchdowns.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wisconsin wasn't super sharp against Buffalo. It was 14-10 at halftime. Wisconsin they scored 24 points in the second half. They had an 89-yard run from Ches Malusi. And then they had a couple short scoring drives, 37-yard drive, 46-yard drive. My big knock on Wisconsin, why I'm not sold on Wisconsin like other people are, is Tanner Mordecai. I'm not a big Tanner Mordecai guy. He went 24 of 31. Just looks good, right, Vince? 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. But you know what? They ran for 314 yards. I'm really looking forward to watching that game and see how they ran it. Because, like, that's what Paul Longo did, or Phil Longo did 3 years ago at UNC, and then he went away from it the last 3 years. Started running the quarterback all the time and not running the football. They had 2 backs over 100 yards in that game. So Butch Jones caught another beatdown. Iowa's defense is great. Their offense is still not great. It really isn't. Did you see the Fresno beat Purdue at Purdue today? Did you see that? Fresno beat Purdue today at Purdue.
They end up pulling that off? I knew it was a game.
39-34.
Wow.
It was a back and forth game. I recorded it. I'm looking forward to watching that. That looked like a very entertaining game.
The Boilers.
Very entertaining game. BC got beat by Northern Illinois in overtime. Did you see it at home?
You showed me that one.
It ended up going overtime and they lost. Like
Huskies.
That. Jeff Halfley's done. He is absolutely done. That's a bad loss, and he's not very good to begin with. Other than that, there really wasn't anything to take away from. I thought Stanford looked pretty good last night against Hawaii. I don't know if you watched any of that game last night, but yeah, you couldn't. You were on your way home.
Correct.
But they beat Hawaii 37-24. It wasn't really that close. The Louisville Georgia Tech game was great last night. Georgia Tech looked great early in that game. They looked great, and then Louisville just poured it. Rallied back. It was 28-13 at halftime. Georgia Tech was winning 28-13 at halftime, and they got outscored 26-6 in the second half to get a win in Jeff Brom's first game. So that was a pretty good win right there. But that's kind of all I see from today's game, Vince. Georgia actually didn't really. They ended up blowing. Who'd they end up playing today? Who did they play? It's like UT Martin. Yeah, it was only 17-0 at halftime. Georgia scored 17 points in the fourth quarter to really pile it on a little bit. They didn't look necessarily, score-wise, they didn't look necessarily phenomenal today. Then Marshall had to come back to beat Albany today. Did you see that? They were losing for a while, 17-14 going into the fourth quarter. And then USC blew out Nevada. They scored 24 points in the fourth quarter, 66-14 today.
Might have to flip on this Illinois-Toledo game. It's a 1-point game, start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's 2019. And then Illinois had to score to get that lead.
Yes.
Toledo was beating them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jason Candle's a good football coach here. It looks like Illinois had a pick 6 for a touchdown. That's how they got their second touchdown. Yeah. Yeah, it was 19-7 in the third quarter, and Illinois had a pick 6 for a touchdown. And then they just went on a 55-yard drive to get the lead back. So, yeah, we're going to wrap up here, Vince, with that. We actually have a super chat here that we'll get to here at the end, but from one of our Ohio State fans that we'll get to at the end, and then we'll get out of here. But
all right, he says Travion. First of all, thank you very much for the super chat.
Yeah,
really
man,
appreciate it. Travion pretty much only played the first half. The line was real bad in the first half, got a bit better in the second. They also switched to Chip Trayanum. Excuse me if I butchered that. For a more physical running back. So thank you for some context, Mike.
Yeah.
Just looking at the line, but still that's not a great line either way.
But I don't care if he only played the first quarter, first half. Like, he's too good of a running back not to be better than that. I mean, that's the thing. And so I'm going to watch that game. But again, it's game 1. Right? Like, that's my thing. Game 1. It's just not something that I'd be overreacting to. And Notre Dame fans, it's not a kind of game where you're just like, hey, let's start talking trash to Ohio State fans. It's game 1, right? It's game 1. Let's see how things go. And maybe Indiana's better than we think they're going to be. I don't think so, but maybe Indiana's better than we think. But they played like crap and got a 20-point road win against a Big Ten team. There's worse things that have happened in life. So, it's going to be an interesting day. I thought not a ton of upsets, but still an interesting day.
Yeah, because this is week 1 for most schools, right? And week 1 for most schools is it's the paycheck game, right? And so you're not going to get a lot of upsets, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, there's still some good football to be played
Some
yet.
really
this
good football to be played this
So
weekend.
stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Make sure you tune in, though, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for Upon Further Review, even though there's
Also
a game
tonight, folks, 11:30 tonight, the CFB Nation team. So on the CFB Nation channel, won't be on Irish Breakdown. It'll be on CFB Nation. So if you want to listen to a recap, Bill Bender from Sporting News and Bill Trocchi from Sporting News, who are the hosts of the CFB Nation channel, which is, obviously a part of the Driscoll Publishing Irish Breakdown family, right? That's the other channel that we have. They're actually doing their first live show tonight at 11:30. And so I'm actually getting ready to get with them. They're going to break down all the games that are played, and they'll kind of dive into their recap. So if you want to hear talk some more football about an hour and 10 minutes, you're going to want to check that out. They're going to go live around 11:30 p.m. on CFB Nation.
Is this going to be a weekly deal for them?
They're going to try it. Yeah, they're going to try it. Now it's going to be harder some weeks because some weeks Bill's on the road traveling for certain games because he covers certain games for Sporting News. But yeah, they're going to give it a whirl. And they're definitely going to give it a shot. So I'm going to help them get that set up, and we'll get them rocking and rolling. So, yeah, 11:30 tonight, CFB Nation channel. Definitely check that out for the post game. Their post week one. It's not really a post game because there's no a game that they're breaking down. It's going to be all of it. They're just going to talk about what they saw today. And then they'll probably preview a little bit the Florida State LSU game tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, we may have to, I don't know, Vince, we may have to start the Upon Further Review a little bit earlier tomorrow so we can.
It's fair.
Or we may just talk about that game while we're doing our mailbag or something. We'll see. But, but that's why you got to be subscribed, right, Vince? Because
you just don't know.
You know, when you're subscribed, then whenever we go live, you'll know. You'll know.
Absolutely.
So, there you go, man. Why don't you take us out of here?
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Hey, another good, solid Irish victory. 2-0. That's the best you can be after 2 weeks of playing football games.
Right.
So, take it where you can get it. And we're right in the middle of it now. So, big game coming up next week. Stick around with Irish Breakdown because we're going to break it all down for you because it's in the name. That's what we do. And so, tomorrow night.
That's why we named it that way.
That's why. It is what it is, right?
That's why we do what we do.
So, tomorrow night.
I love that comment. It's in the name, guys. That's what we do. That's who we are.
It's it's the KISS method, baby. Keep it simple.
Staying in our lane, Vince.
All right. Yes, we are staying in our lane, my man. So make sure you hit the like or hit the thumbs up, hit the share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Boards.irishbreakdown.com. All kinds of fun stuff over there. Make sure you hit it. Irishbreakdown.com as well. Lots of stories about the game today. Recruiting. Just check it out. There's a bunch of stuff there as well. So stick around, guys. This is the only place you need to be. Irish Breakdown. We're going to bring it to you again tonight. College football or the CFP Nation. Check it out tonight. Live, 11:30. And then tomorrow night, we're going to have our Upon Further Review. So stick around, folks. Every day, 7 days a week, Irish Breakdown. So for Brian, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown podcast.
Tyler Buckner's in at quarterback, by the way, for Alabama.
Go Noles.
That's right.